Chapter 01 The Kiss. It had been a day like any other for him. Scrounge for scraps, steal a piece of fruit from a stand and eat it before they caught him, spend most of the day hiding in alleys, and 3 or 4 times a week get attacked and beaten unconscious by an angry mob and hope you wake up. It was sunset when they caught him, and for the 5-year-old blonde boy curled into a tight ball in the dark alley getting stomped bloody by adults who hated him for some reason he couldn't understand or figure out, it was just another day. He screamed, cried and begged for mercy, but as usual all that did was anger them more. He just couldn't figure out why they hated him or called him monster and demon. When the darkness overtook him this time, it was different. He knew he was unconscious, but was still awake and now seemed to be falling. Then suddenly found himself in a very dirty sewer with a couple inches of water. Naruto stood and looked around a minute before he realized he wasn't in pain. Am I dead? Did they kill me this time? Naruto said, then shuddered when an inhumanly deep laugh echoed through the sewer. Come to me, boy, we must speak, a terrifying voice said. The voice terrified him, but despite his fear he followed it down the long tunnel around the corner and down another long tunnel to a huge room. At the far side was the most massive cage door he'd ever seen. Even the main gate of the village was tiny compared to it. Where am I and who are you? Little Naruto said nervously but bravely. Just because he ran from the villagers didn't mean he was afraid of them, he just couldn't fight back, he was too small and weak. A pair of huge red eyes appeared in the darkness of the cage. We are inside your mind, boy, and I am Kyuubi no Kitsune, greatest of all the tailed beasts and lord of hell. Kyuubi roared powerfully. And I am the reason they hate you, but I'm also going to help you. Naruto stood there filled with sadness and a quickly building rage he never felt before. He was about to scream at the unseen thing in the cage when it said it was going to help him. That got his attention as only one person had ever helped him, the old man in the big tower. If everyone hates me cause of you, then why do you want to help me? Naruto said as he tried to look tough. For such a small kid, you have big balls to stand up to me like that. And you don't even really know who I am. Kyuubi said, actually impressed. You're too young to understand this now, but basically, if you die, I die, and I refuse to die sealed inside some undersized kid. So I'm going to give you power you never. No, Kyuubi, a female voice interrupted. I will not allow you to alter his fate to fit your evil desires. Kyuubi flinched and looked past Naruto, who spun around when he heard her voice. What are you doing here, you bit? Silence, the woman yelled, which humbled Kyuubi. Do not speak to me that way, beast. Even your power is nothing compared to mine, the woman said and walked gracefully to the stunned Naruto. She was 6 feet tall, had white hair past her waist and a silver kimono that showed a beautiful figure and large breasts. She smiled warmly at Naruto, who relaxed and smiled back. Naruto-kun, I wish I didn't have to do this, but Kyuubi is correct. Your fate has somehow been changed and the people attacking you are going to kill you. This wasn't supposed to happen. While I don't agree with his method, someone must intervene. I shall do so. One of your greatest abilities is your luck, but that seems to have been negated. I have many names, but many humans refer to me as Lady Luck. This is what you may call me. For your life to turn out as close to how it should, I must give you a gift no mortal has ever had. The golden kiss. You will not remember this for many years as anything more than a good feeling. You will have good luck beyond any mortal. I can't tell you any more, I'm afraid. I must act now before it is too late, she said in a beautiful motherly voice, then kneeled down and kissed Naruto gently on the forehead before she vanished. Kyuubi watched her and Naruto vanish, then started to laugh. This isn't what he'd planned. But if she did what he thought she just did, this would be even more fun to watch than the slaughter of millions, and for him that was something special. The real world. As they kicked Naruto in an effort to kill him and his demon before the ANBU showed up, 3 stories up in a window ledge above the 2-story building across the alley, the woman tripped, bumped the vase and sent it plummeting straight down, where it shattered on the head on the mob's leader and knocked him cold. Thinking they'd been spotted by someone, they scattered and left the man face down in the alley, with a concussion and blood pouring from a wound on top his head. Just after they scattered, 3 ANBU appeared. The leader, a tall, thin man with spiky silver hair above his mask. The other was a more muscular man, black hair, and a shorter woman with large but well-proportioned breasts for her build, and long purple hair. Venom. Take that garbage to ANBU headquarters and tell Ibiki to have fun with him. I'll take Naruto back to his apartment. have Hokage-sama's personal doctor meet us there, and stand guard until morning," the silver-haired man said from behind his wolf mask. The purple-haired woman smiled sadistically behind her snake mask and threw the unconscious, bloody man over her shoulder. Though only temporary, she loved being an ANBU guard for this kid. It gave her a chance to hurt people legally. She didn't really like the little blonde kid, but she'd seen how shitty his life was the last month she'd been assigned to guard him, but did have some respect for him because no matter what he never gave up. She could relate to that. Her life until recently had been just as shitty. I can understand hating what's inside the kid, but even I'm not sadistic enough to kill a little kid for something he has no control over. And those fuckers at the hospital, Venom said, her anger and voice raising with every word. Calm down, Venom. I know how you feel, but even we can't just kill people without good reason, and you know it. We have a job to do. Dismissed, Wolf said. Venom nodded and vanished. You know what will happen if she ever catches anyone attacking the kid. I doubt even we'll be able to stop her from killing them, the big man in the bear mask said seriously. The thin man in the wolf mask sighed, nodded, scooped up Naruto and vanished with Bear. Naruto's mindscape. So the snake bitch has a soft spot for the kid. I can use that. If Cammy and her other celestial bitches are watching over the kid, they'll seal me away in the back of his mind if I try to influence him the wrong way, and I won't even be able to talk to him. They want him to be a hero, fine. But it'll be my way, Kyuubi said and smiled broadly. Naruto, age 6, 6:57 a.m., the academy. Naruto walked down the hall of the academy towards his first class. He didn't show it, but he was really nervous despite what the old man and his new friends at the ramen stand said. Being around all these people, and especially the ninja teachers, made him nervous. He saw the all-too-familiar hate in every adult's eyes he'd met so far. Unlike with villagers, if they decided to kill him, there was nothing he could do. Even running wouldn't help him against them. He paused at the doorway and looked in at all the other kids. Most of them he'd seen around the village and recognized, especially the kids from the big clans. There's the fat kid with the chips, the lazy kid. The bug kid seems okay, but creepy. There's Dog Boy. They're Mr. Important, Pinky NND Big Mouth. I don't know why they like him, just because he's from a big clan and he's rich he thinks he's special. Big jerk, Naruto thought. Then his scowl fell away when he saw a girl with blue hair and white eyes looking at him. He didn't think anyone in there had seen him. She suddenly turned red and looked down at her desk. She's weird. I wonder who she is. I think she's one of those eye people. But why haven't I ever seen her before? Oh well, I better get in there and get a seat. I promised Grandpa I'd try to behave. Naruto thought, then walked in, crossed the room and got a seat right in the middle of everyone he recognized. This was lucky. Maybe I'll get to play cards with some of them later. Good thing I brought the deck Grandpa bought me. Naruto thought and smiled. He'd found out a couple months ago he was really lucky with cards, dice, any game he played or little bet he made, usually for ramen, he always won. Even against the old guy he called Grandpa. A minute or so later the bell rang and a guy with a big scar across his nose came in and smiled. I'm your teacher, you can call Irika-sensei. Before we start, let's see who's here. Irika said, went to his desk, picked up the clipboard of names and a pencil. Chuji Akimichi? Munch munch, here. Shino Aburami? Irika said, then smirked subtly when Shino just raised a hand enough to see. Just like his dad, Irika thought. Naruto listened and watched as names were called. He wanted to see who Ivrain was. Eventually everyone he recognized was named but one. Here! Naruto yelled and waved his arm so everyone saw him. Most laughed. He could tell some thought he was an idiot, but he didn't care about that, or even that many of them looked at him like the adults did, but not with as much hate as they did. He looked at the last person and smiled at her. Ino Yamanaka? Irika said. Here next to Sasuke-kun. Ino said sweetly. Naruto felt the strong, for their age anyway, killer intent that filled the classroom when Ino said that. He looked around at all the angry girls and almost felt sorry for Ino. Almost, but not quite, then froze when he saw her. The girl he now knew as Hinata Hyuga wasn't staring all big-eyed at Sasuke, but at him. That is, until he saw her staring at him. Turned bright red and face planted on her desk with a thud. He had to giggle at that. She was funny. Weird but funny. He made a mental note to talk to her later. Maybe she wanted to be friends and was just too shy. Grandpa had given him a few talks about people, so he had a tiny idea of why she acted like that. In Naruto's mind, unheard by him, Kyuubi was laughing his furry butt off. He knew exactly why the girl looked at him like that. He could have introduced himself to Naruto and told him, but where was the fun in that? That Sasuke kid. Kyuubi had plans for him. If there was one thing he enjoyed, it was knocking the arrogant off their throne and leaving them humiliated. He was glad he influenced Naruto enough to get him to practice throwing things, mostly rocks, but with his luck the kid never missed his target. He couldn't wait for the weapons. 12:42 p.m. 5th period weapon class. Outdoor target range. Naruto had watched everyone take their turn and throw the kunai. Most were decent enough, but as he figured Sasuke was currently ranked top in the class with a near-perfect score of 95, which made all the girls but Hinata fawn all over him, and he'd ignore them as usual. He could at least be nice to them. Jerk. Naruto thought, then smiled a little bigger than he already was when his turn came. He stepped up to the table to pick up 5 of the 10 kunai he had to throw. At least try to hit the target, dobe. If you can see over the table, that is, Sasuke said and laughed cruelly. Naruto felt a familiar rush of energy through his body that always started in his stomach, which he figured was where everyone's chakra started when they used it. He was about to pick one up when an idea appeared in his mind. Irika-sensei, do we have to throw at the first targets? They're only 30 feet away. Naruto said and looked depressed, like he was doing something too easy. Can I throw at the second targets? Everyone got quiet and looked at the little blonde like he was crazy. Naruto, the other targets are 60 feet away and are for the advanced students, you can't reach them yet. Irika said calmly. Yeah, dobe, I've been training since I was 2 and I can't hit those yet, so there's no way a runt like you could do it, Sasuke said and laughed with most of the other students. Naruto quietly smacked his lips together as he always did, and smiled big as he set his hook. Sure I can. Do it all the time. Irika raised his eyebrows slightly at this. He'd heard students boast before, but this time was different somehow. He actually believed Naruto could do it. Naruto, can you really hit those targets from here? Irika asked, calm but very curious. No one had ever hit those targets on their first day, not even Itachi Uchiha. Of course I can, Irika-sensei, Naruto said confidently. No chance, dobe. You have a better chance of getting these girls to kiss you than hitting those targets, Sasuke said. Yeah. All but one girl yelled confidently. Oh yeah. Then how about we bet on it? Naruto said seriously. All the girls suddenly got quiet. They didn't like that look on the little blonde boy's face. It made them all nervous for some reason. What's the bet, dobe? Sasuke said as he got serious. Irika got the same odd feeling the girls had in his stomach, but he'd seen that look before in casinos. It was the look of someone that knew they were going to win no matter what. Before I allow this, what are the terms of the bet? He has to hit all 10 targets for at least 1 point, Sasuke said. If he doesn't? Irika asked. Sasuke thought a moment then smiled cruelly. For the next month he has to call me Sasuke-sama and do anything I tell him at the academy. What do you say, Naruto? Irika said. Deal. If I win you have to do that for me. And if I get a bullseye on all 10 every girl here has to kiss me, Naruto exclaimed. He wasn't interested in girls that way yet, he just knew they didn't want to and that was a good enough to make them do it. Every girl there went pale, several fainted, including Hinata. Irika's eyebrows shot up at that. Girls, you don't have to. We accept. My Sasuke-kun won't lose, Ino said when her confidence came back. Sasuke looked around and saw a small nod from all of them still conscious. They all annoyed him but they helped his image as the soon-to-be top student. Deal, Sasuke said and walked over to Naruto. Irika stopped Sasuke and waited a moment while he had a few girls wake up the few that fainted. Does everyone agree to the terms of the bet? As shinobi your word is everything. It will define how other shinobi treat you, and among your teammates if they can't trust you, then you won't live long. Everyone understand that? Irika said seriously, then saw everyone nod. Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Yukika, shake hands and make this a binding agreement. He watched them shake then step back. Naruto looked at the big outdoor clock. Since class will be over soon, I'll do this fast. Naruto said with a big smile, scooped up 5 kunai in each hand by the handles, crossed his arms over his chest and with a grunt threw all 10 at once. His arms snapped out to his sides. Everyone went slack-jawed and bug-eyed when all 10 kunai hit their target's dead center. So who's first? Naruto asked as he licked his lips. Hokage Tower, 3:16 p.m. Sarutobi's pipe fell from his mouth to the desk when his jaw dropped from shock. He did what? Sarutobi yelled with Kage-level power. Iruka flinched. It's true, Hokage-sama. Naruto Uzumaki hit all 10 targets dead center at the same time. On his first throw. I've never seen anything like it, even from experienced ANBU. But, Iruka said and hesitated. Sarutobi caught that and composed himself. But what, Iruka? It wasn't skill, he didn't even aim, he just threw them. And I think I felt some of his chakra when he did, but I'm pretty sure all it did was enhance his strength so he could hit them, the rest was all Naruto. I watched him the rest of the day when I had him and notified his other teachers. They all said the same thing. He has the most unbelievable luck we've ever seen. There's one more thing, Hokage-sama. It's Mizuki, he wants a transfer to another department. He'll take anything as long as it's away from Naruto. Sarutobi's right eyebrow raised slightly. Why, what happened in his taijutsu class? You know how proud he is. Well, by the time his class started, word had spread all over the academy. Mizuki got into an argument with Naruto, and they ended making a bet that Naruto couldn't hit him, and no matter how good Naruto was at throwing things that wouldn't save him in a fight. Iruka said and swallowed nervously. Naruto has the worst, sloppiest taijutsu style I've ever seen in my life. It's like he taught himself. They went at it a minute. I will say this for Naruto, he has incredible reflexes. It's like he knew the attacks were coming. He got him. Mizuki hit him? Sarutobi said, slightly concerned. Iruka shook his head. I don't know how, but Naruto landed a kick and knocked him out cold. Sarutobi was stunned. Impossible. Wait, where did Naruto kick him that could knock Mizuki out? Iruka winced. Naruto kicked him. In the balls, he's at the hospital now. I don't know if he was seriously injured, but based on my experience, to knock out someone like Mizuki with a single kick requires incredible chakra to generate the force needed. It reminded me of stories you used to tell me about. Tsunade. Sarutobi interrupted. Thank you. Dismissed. Sarutobi said, waited for Iruka to leave, put a sound seal on the room and burst out laughing. He was one of the few people aware of how Mizuki really felt about Naruto. He saw him as Kyuubi reborn, not as a person that contained the Demon Lord. End Chapter 1. Chapter 02, Deadly Aim. Day 2, 7 a.m., the Academy. Naruto sat at his desk with a big smile on his face. When he got there that morning, everyone looked at him. Many kids even respectfully stepped aside, even older kids. The look everyone gave him wasn't the same hate he was used to. He wasn't sure what it was, but he liked it. He was the center of attention, but for a different reason this time. Kissing all the girls yesterday had been fun. Most didn't like it, some didn't seem to care, and few seemed to like it afterwards. One girl stood out though, Hinata Hyuga. She was last in line to kiss him. She'd fainted 4 times trying to kiss him, and finally did with Iruka-sensei holding her up, then fainted again. He thought it was really funny, but for some reason couldn't bring himself to laugh at her. It was like someone was holding him back. When Iruka-sensei came in, he saw him immediately look right at him and smile. Iruka picked up his clipboard and stood in front of his desk. Everyone, we have a new student. She should have started last year but was unable to for personal reasons. Please come in. Iruka said as he turned to the door and waited a moment for her to enter. Everyone, please say hello to Tenten. Naruto watched her enter, and when she did his eyes bugged out. Naruto was the smallest kid in his grade, but the new girl, Tenten, was even shorter than he was, and she was a year older. She had black hair and little buns on the sides of her head, a dark blue shirt, black pants and sandals. She looked around then when she saw him she seemed to get angry at him. He had no idea why though, he just met her. Tenten, please take a seat, Iruka said. Tenten gave Iruka a polite bow and headed for the only empty seat. But all the way there she glared at the little blonde boy with the 3 marks on each cheek. Lunch? Academy cafeteria. Here's your ramen from Ichiraku's. Naruto-sama. Sasuke said politely as he sat the 1-quart white box in front of Naruto. But it was obvious he was really mad. May I eat lunch now, Naruto-sama? Sasuke said politely through clenched teeth. Naruto laughed. Thanks, Sasuke team. Dismissed. Naruto said casually and vet his hand. He'd seen the old man do that a lot and practiced imitating him until he did it perfectly. Sasuke gave Naruto a forced polite bow and walked away. He gritted his teeth angrily as he heard Naruto laughing behind him. He wanted to use his fireball jutsu on Naruto, but he didn't, not because of the academy, but because of his parents. His father could only kill him for breaking his word as a shinobi and an Uchiha. His mother would do far worse. He'd get the look from her, that glare of total disappointment. He simply couldn't withstand it, and once even saw his father humbled by an almost identical glare. He figured it had to be some special jutsu they teach women at the academy, because only women and kunoichi ever used it. Naruto had just dug into his ramen when 2 chopsticks pierced the box. Everyone froze and turned to look. Naruto had a mouthful of noodles, half which hung out of his mouth. 50 feet away, on the other side of the cafeteria, stood a very angry little brunette, her right arm still extended from her throw. Naruto slurped down his ramen and swallowed them with an audible gulp as he watched her storm across the room to him. That lunch period was used by all the grades, and as Tenten crossed, even the final year students twice her size stepped out of her way. No one noticed the on-duty kunoichi Shushin away, or returned just before Tenten reached Naruto. She had a guest that stood behind her hidden from the students. He rubbed his scarred nose. Hello. Tenten. Is something wrong? Naruto said nervously and gave her a big friendly smile. You think you're better than me with kunai? Tenten asked angrily. Naruto thought a moment, shrugged, and said what he hoped as the right thing. Maybe. I've never seen you use them. You will today. Weapon class, the target range. I challenge you to a contest to decide once and for all who has the best aim, Tenten said loudly, grabbed Naruto's chopsticks from him, twirled them at high speed in her right hand, and without even looking through them, both pierced the center of a chunk of barbecue pork Chuji had in his chopsticks ready to bite. He was 35 feet away. Tenten turned and stormed out of the cafeteria. I'm going to have to assign him a bodyguard if this keeps up, Irika said as he gently shook his head, then vanished. And I thought doing him this favor was going to be boring. Anko whispered to herself behind her henge and smiled. Weapon class? Outdoor target range. As he listened to Irika-sensei ask Tenten if she was sure she wanted to bet on this, he thought about what had happened. He'd heard a very quiet voice in his head lately that had given him these ideas for the bets and other things, but he thought it was normal. Besides, everything had gone his way, and now he just found out that Tenten's dad owned the best weapon shop in Konoha. His little voice had suggested that be the bet, and Tenten had agreed right away. I'm ready, Irika-sensei. So who goes first? Since standard targets won't settle this, you see I have 10 small targets set up around the field. You'll both get 10 kunai. You'll get 1 minute to run the course I laid out. Since you made the challenge, Tenten, I'll let Naruto decide who goes first. Irika said, then looked at Naruto. Okay. Tenten can go first, Naruto said. Irika subtly raised his eyebrows when Naruto said okay, as if someone had said something to him. He had a feeling he knew who it was. As long as he didn't see any red chakra, he'd let anything Naruto said or did slide. As long as no one was in danger and it wasn't trying to escape. Ready, Tenten. Irika took out a stopwatch. Go, he said as he clicked it. He watched her dash through the course at impressive speed for her size and age, and she threw her kunai with a very practiced hand, which didn't surprise him considering who her parents were. He clicked it as she crossed the line. 42.34 seconds. Very impressive, Tenten. Irika said, then walked the course, removed her kunai and recorded her score. Looks like you scored a 9.9 Tenten. Your last hit was a millimeter to the left. The wind blew the target. I was dead center. That's not fair, Tenten yelled. Irika could hear it in her voice. She scored better than most high-level chunin, and she was actually disgusted with her performance. She's a perfectionist. Her file was right, her whole identity is wrapped up in her near-perfect natural aim with thrown weapons. If Naruto beats her, I hope it doesn't break her spirit. She'll make an excellent kunoichi and weapon mistress someday. Iruka thought. Sorry Tenten, your turn Naruto. Iruka said, and as Naruto picked up the Tenkanai, he felt that same subtle chakra surge he felt yesterday. If Naruto is the kind of person I think he is, if he does hurt her feelings, he'll make it up to her some way. I hope, Iruka thought. Naruto got his kunai ready. Go! Iruka said as he clicked the stopwatch. He watched carefully as Naruto ran the course at full speed. He didn't even look at the targets, he just threw his kunai as he passed them, and like before he didn't aim but hit the target on pure luck. It was like a bloodline limit almost. He couldn't believe it even as he watched it happen. He checked his watch and knew he had her time beat easily. When Naruto crossed the line, he stopped it. 30 seconds, even. I'll be right back, Iruka said and ran off to check his aim and collect the kunai. When he got to the last target, he knew it was over before he even got close. Like the first 9, this one was dead enter. In fact, the FRST-9 were in the same hole made by Tenten's kunai. He composed himself and returned to the anxious kids, 2 in particular. Naruto's score was perfect, he said almost nervously. The instant he started to say perfect, he saw Tenten's face. Behind her eyes, her self-worth was falling like a lightning bolt from the sky. I lost. Tenten whimpered pathetically as her eyes teared up. Iruka watched intently. He saw her emotional mask was about to shatter, but before he could act, it happened. Tenten froze up, her whole body stiff. Don't cry, Tenten. You're way better than me. I just got lucky, Naruto said as he hugged her. You like ramen? After academy, I'll take you out to eat all you want and I'll call us even. What do you say? Sasuke team is buying, Naruto said happily. Then for a reason even he didn't understand, he kissed her cheek. Near the front, Hinata silently whimpered when she saw him kiss her, but it had been on her cheek, not on the lips. She still had hope. Sasuke clenched his fists and jaw, but didn't react otherwise. Tenten was stunned. She just stood there a moment and stared at him. I love ramen. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Tenten said almost timidly. When he'd kissed her, all her pain had faded away almost instantly and been replaced by something else that made her all happy. She whipped around facing the crowd. From now on, anyone tries to pick on Naruto-kun has to go through me first, Tenten exclaimed. Well, I'll be damned. How the hell did he do that? Iruka thought, highly amused, but kept it hidden. Naruto-kun, after we eat, I'll take you to our family shop to get your new weapons. I hope Dad lets me anyway, Tenten said as she realized she'd bet him free weapons from her dad's shop without permission. Sure, Tenten-chan, Naruto said happily, then turned to the crowd when he heard an almost squeaky voice. He looked around and saw her face was all red. Does you say something, Hinata-chan? Naruto said casually, not really realizing he'd called her Chan accidentally. Hinata's head snapped up and her face turned bright red. He called me Hinata-chan, Hinata said to herself, then nodded her answer to him purely on instinct. See, can I join you for our men? Hinata stuttered out badly. She'd never been so nervous in her entire life. Naruto smiled happily. He just made 2 friends in one day. Of course you can, Hinata-chan, Naruto exclaimed. Iruka glanced at Hinata and saw it in her eyes. She loves him. She's just too shy to tell him. Uh-oh, if Naruto hugs Hinata, her blood pressure might kill her. Iruka thought. Everyone back inside. Except you, Naruto. You're going to help me clean up, Iruka said. Naruto whined and pouted a moment, then nodded. Hi, Iruka-sensei. Can I stay and help Naruto-kun clean up? Tenten said hopefully. I think we can handle it, Tenten, but you can take the kunai back in and put them away for me. I know I can trust you with school property. With the extras, there's too many for one person. Hinata, would you assist Tenten please? Iruka said. Hinata calmed down and bowed slightly. Hi, Iruka-sensei. Hinata smiled at Tenten, then quickly helped Tenten load the kunai into the box with the others and carry it inside. That should get them talking. If she just open up, Hinata could be a top student. She lacks confidence. Tenten doesn't. and both need friends. Now I just need to have a little talk with Naruto, Irika thought. 2:20 p.m. Ichiraku ramen. So that's 6 beef ramen for you, Naruto-kun, a pork ramen for you, Tenten-chan, and a miso ramen for you, Hinata-chan, the 16-year-old girl said and gave Naruto a sly smirk, then turned and headed for the stove. So why haven't you brought your girlfriends in sooner, Naruto-kun? Ayam said playfully, then heard a thud and turned suddenly back to them and gasped. Naruto was looking at the floor surprised. Tenten was bright red and she couldn't see Hinata. She ran back to the counter and looked down over it. Hinata was on the floor out cold, her face neon red. Oh Kami, I'm sorry, Ayam said and ran around to help Hinata as her father came out of the back. Naruto age 8. 2:38 p.m. Ichiraku ramen. Sakura Haruno sat on the stool next to her friend trying to become invisible. To Sakura's left sat an angry Ino Yamanaka. I still can't believe you did this to me, forehead. How could you make that bet with Naruto? You ruined my reputation. Look at us. Ino almost yelled, jumped off her stool and did a spin. Thanks to you we have to wear these ugly orange jumpsuits for a week. Sasuke-kun will never look at me again. And you, Ino said. Humph shook her head and got back on her stool. Ino. I really didn't think he knew the answer. Sakura said meekly. She hoped she hadn't lost her best friend. Hinata sat quietly at her normal stool on Naruto's right and ate her miso ramen, but inside she was laughing her head off. She didn't see what the problem was though. She thought orange was a good color, especially on her best boyfriend and crush Naruto. She glanced over at Tenten who was giggling almost out of control. The now 9-year-old Tenten didn't see what the big deal was. She thought they looked good in orange jumpsuits, Naruto did. She was barely able to eat her pork ramen, she was giggling so hard. 11:56 p.m. That night, Naruto's apartment. Naruto threw off his ragged, worn blanket and got out of bed in his orange pajamas and scratched his head. Stupid cat. Up screeching all night. Naruto said annoyed, reached between the headboard of his bed and the wall into a hole and pulled out an old, slightly rusty but recently sharpened kunai. He had new ones from Tenten, but this was his first one and his favorite. This time I'm gonna kill that stupid cat, Naruto said with a big, slightly dark, foxy grin. Had he looked at the side of the kunai, he'd have seen his eyes turn red for just a moment as he said it. Naruto went to his window, deactivated the alarm he'd recently made for it to keep people from breaking in to trash everything yet again. Checked to be sure the coast was clear, then climbed out, kunai in hand. He'd chased it dozens of times during the last 6 months and memorized its patterns and hiding places. He snuck silently through the alley and down the side streets. From its singing he knew where it was and had a plan. He'd use what he'd learned at the academy and sneak up it from behind. He'd tried the direct attack a dozen times after it had first appeared, but as fast as he was, that stupid gray cat was faster. Okay Tora, this time I got ya and you won't, Naruto thought as he crossed the rooftop to the edge for he'd death from above attack, then stopped when he saw something unusual. He was used to seeing the occasional ANBU blurring across the rooftops, or a shinobi out on the street patrolling. But this person sneaking through the shadows had a big bag over his shoulder, and it had an odd shape to it. Then he saw it move. He's kidnapping someone, Naruto thought. Then for some reason the direction the man came from bot hurt him, so he turned and looked. It only took him a moment to realize who lived in that direction that was worth kidnapping. He has Hinata-chan, Naruto whispered, unaware his voice had changed or his eyes had turned blood red and now had vertical slit pupils. Over 200 yards away the lining Nin stopped mid-step when he felt it. A sudden spike of shaka filled with more raw hatred that even he could imagine. He turned and scanned the area nervously. No human has chakra that strong or has that much hatred. It has to be a Jinchuriki. Damn it, why didn't they tell me Konoha had a Jinchuriki? I better get the fuck out of, he thought, then dropped the sack and screamed in a very high-pitched voice. It had come in faster than even he could react as a jounin, and buried itself in his crotch. He fell to the ground wailing, unable to focus enough to use his chakra. In the 20 years he'd been a ninja, he'd been injured many times, but never had he been struck there by a weapon. The next thing he knew, Smion grabbed his collar and lifted him up to his knees. where he looked into the slitted, blood-red eyes of a little blonde boy who had his fist raised to strike. Red chakra was gathering around his fist almost like armor as it slowly covered his body. He caught a glimpse behind the obviously enraged Jinchuriki and saw a foxtail forming out of red chakra. He instantly knew which demon was imprisoned in the blonde boy. Kyuubi no Kitsune, he said, now terrified. He could handle most shinobi, even Jounin, but Kyuubi was so far beyond him he knew anything he tried would be useless. I'm glad I haven't been forgotten, Kyuubi said through Naruto, who he'd surpassed to keep these memories from him for now. Now mortal scum. You will burn in the fires of hell, Kyuubi said as his raised fist burst into red flames. Release him, Kyuubi-sama. Let us handle this, a voice said from behind Kyuubi, calmly, but slyly nervous. Still in control, Kyuubi threw the lining Nin face down on the street, hard enough to knock him out, and turned around, still in his one-tailed chakra cloak. He saw 6 ANBU, the 3 now unmasked ANBU from 3 years ago in the alley, and the Hyuga twins, Hayashi and Hizashi, who kept looking past him to the still unconscious Hinata, whose head and right arm now hung out of the sack, their Byakugan active. Kyuubi was very angry, but still in control. He didn't want to, but he had to give Naruto control back. He didn't want another visit from her. Or worse, Naruto is unaware of my presence within him. For now you will keep it that way. Tell him of me before he's ready and I'll skin you all alive, Kyuubi said menacingly. He didn't want them to know he was bluffing. He then pulled back all his chakra, and Naruto returned to normal. The moment he did, Naruto fell forward, unconscious. Kakashi crossed the 10 feet in an instant and caught him. Hayashi, Hizashi, take Hinata home. Enko, Asuma, take him to Ibiki. You 6 take Naruto home and stand guard out of sight. I'll report this to Hokage-sama. If anyone asks, this is an S-rank secret for now. Dismissed, Kakashi said, handed Naruto to the ANBU. Then he vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. Hayashi picked up Hinata, and now except for his brother they were the only ones still there. That was the diplomat from Cloud, Hayashi said. Hizashi sighed and nodded. Hi. I also noticed that wasn't the same Kyuubi that attacked us 6 years ago. He was protecting Hinata. Hayashi nodded. That's twice I owe him now, Hizashi. First I allow him to visit Hinata and he trips a branch member bringing Hana poison tea that would have killed her, and now he saved my daughter thanks to the demon. I must admit I was wrong about them, especially Naruto, and have dishonored my friend's memory. I will make this up to his son, no matter the personal cost, Hayashi said quietly to his twin, then ran off towards the Hyuga compound. 1,000 thoughts ran through his mind all at once at what just happened and what he was going to tell Hinata tomorrow, and what he was going to tell Hana when he got back. Hizashi was close behind him. Chapter 03, Future Plans. Naruto, age 8. 4:31 p.m. Hyuga compound. Since he'd helped save Hinata-chan 2 months ago, he still had no idea how, though, and any adult he asked would say, I'll tell you when you're older. He didn't like it, but as long as Hinata-chan was okay he didn't care. As he sat and watched Hinata spar with Niji in the outdoor training ground, he had to smile. Hinata was the top kunoichi at the academy. She hadn't stuttered in almost 3 weeks. He'd made friends with Sasuke. Though they were also rivals now, he loved finally having someone to train with now. He had dozens of friends now, at least at the academy, and the adult ninjas and kunoichi would give him a friendly smile, nod or wave when he saw them around the village. Most of the villagers still glared hatefully at him for some reason he still couldn't figure out, but some had changed their minds. Better than everything else, though, was that Hinata's dad and uncle had bought him a small house near the Hyuga compound. It wasn't much bigger than his apartment, but it was clean and it as all his, no rent to pay. He didn't get money from the old man anymore, but they'd solved that too. He had a bank account now that, if he was careful like they showed him, would last him until he graduated and could earn his own money. They said it was the least they could do for him for saving Hinata. All he knew was that if it wasn't for him, that man would have escaped with Hinata and they never would have seen her again. Come on, Naruto, you must be washed and dressed if you wish to join us for dinner, Hayashi said as he walked up to Naruto. Naruto turned to him and smiled. Hi, Hayashi-sama, Naruto said, hopped off the bench, bowed, and dashed off to the men's baths in the main house. Hayashi smiled as he smelled lilacs from behind him and turned around. Hello, Hana-chan. How's Lil Hanabi-chan? Hana smiled warmly at her husband as she held her sleeping 3-year-old daughter on her shoulder. She fell asleep watching Hinata-chan spar with Niji. She said she was really proud her Nei-chan was so strong now, before she went out. She was tired from her training, I guess. She wants to be just like Hinata when she grows up. Hana said with a warm smile, then activated her Byakugan a moment to be sure Naruto or any other kids weren't around to hear her. Her face got serious, which for her was rare inside the compound. Has he shown up since Hinata-chan's kidnapping attempt? Hayashi's face changed to the familiar emotionless appearance. I've watched him here and had him watched by our Jounin. Even when he gets hit sparring with the Uchiha, there's been nothing. I've discussed this with Sarutobi-sama and the other clan heads. We all agree, for whatever reason we're unaware of, it has changed. Even when he threatened us that night, he was full of rage. But there was no hatred or evil intent when he said it. Hana smiled and relaxed. And what about this uncanny luck he has? I've never seen anything like it. I've watched him, it isn't just throwing things, it happens in any game he plays or anything he wants to do, he seems to almost. There's no other way to say it, he seems to change fate to whatever outcome is best for him. But I don't think he's aware that he's doing it, he just thinks he's really lucky. Hayashi nodded, then smirked. Have you heard about his dream? No. I haven't spent as much time with him as I'd like because of Hanabi-chan. But she'll be playing with other kids soon. Hana said. He wants to be the next Hokage, Hayashi said. Then he saw a twinkle in his wife's eyes he hadn't seen in a long time and sighed. Come on Hayashi-kun, you know Hinata loves him, and we both know with his luck he will be Hokage someday. They'd be a perfect couple. Not to mention what having our son-in-law as Hokage would do for the clan. Hana said happily and gave him her best pleading expression. Leaned forward slightly so her kimono top fell open enough to let him see of her very large breasts. It was a dirty trick to use this outside the bedroom, where she'd have to pay him back tonight, but it was worth it. Hayashi held his ground until he saw down her kimono. He just couldn't resist those big pale breasts. You win, Hana. I'll draw up the paperwork later and take it to Sarutobi-sama tomorrow, Hayashi said and thought a moment. They'd be honored to know you want their son to marry Hinata. I miss them too. Hana smiled, kissed Hayashi, then called over her personal servant, an older cadet branchwoman, and handed Hanabi to her. Please put Hanabi to bed. She won't be joining us for dinner. Be sure Naruto-kun is ready and in the dining room by 5 sharp this time. Hana said with a subtle smirk, then nodded to the woman. The woman took Hanabi, smiled subtly, then nodded and left. Naruto age 9, after sunset. Naruto loved night, he could go out and explore Konoha without having to deal with any people. Except the odd shinobi he'd meet on patrol or ANBU, though they never stopped to even say hello. With one exception. It had started 10 months ago by accident, but had become a regular event. Once a week he'd go there just after sunset. He landed on the roof. Listened carefully and waited for the very subtle sound. He suddenly spun around, caught the kunai that had been thrown at him, and smiled happily. All the special training he'd gotten in the last year, especially from his new surrogate dad and uncle, had increased his power by leaps and bounds, though he hid most of what he could do now at the academy. The ANBU stepped out of the shadows and lifted her mask. Damn it, brat, how the hell do you do that? You aren't even a genin yet, but not only can you detect me when no one else can, but you can catch my kunai bare-handed, she said, annoyed but very impressed. He'd mastered everything she'd taught him in the last 10 months in a matter of days. She knew how lucky he was, but in 4 years, the last in particular, he'd gotten as strong as she was, maybe more. It has to be the fox's doing. There's no other explanation for why he's so damn strong. That's a secret, Anko-chan. You know we don't tell our secrets. You lost again. I'm waiting, Naruto said and gave her a big, almost perverted grin. Anko pouted very Naruto-like. Oh, come on, brat. How the hell you ever got me to make that damn bet is beyond me. But Anko Mitarahi always pays her debts. You sure you're a 9-year-old kid and not Kakashi using a disguise? That pervert would do anything to see what you're about to. Again, Anko said, slightly embarrassed, but amused. Naruto smiled and shook his head. You're the only ANBU I talk to, Anko-chan. I swear. If you ever tell anyone I submit to you like this, I'll feed you to my snakes. Anko said seriously, then sighed. I don't believe I'm about to show this lucky little shit my tits again. How the fuck a 9-year-old brat got the toughest, scariest bitch in Konoha by the short hairs I doubt I'll ever know. But I'm gonna try. At least he's not older. If he was, I'd probably be on my knees sucking his dick. Or more. Who am I kidding? When he's older he'll probably make me his fuck toy anyway. At least he's cute. He'll be a real stud when he's older. Well, better he see my tits than sneak around peeping on women like that old pervert does. Anko thought, then grabbed the bottom of her shirt. She'd stopped wearing a bra months ago when she'd accepted the fact she was never going to win. It just got in the way. She'd just gotten it up to the bottom of her semi-firm breasts when she saw him raise his hand for her to stop. When she saw his big grin turn serious, she knew something was wrong. He was never wrong. What is it, Naruto? Anko said, a little anxious. I heard a scream, like someone was stabbed or something. Naruto said seriously as he turned his head side to side to find the direction. I didn't hear anything, but I trust your senses. You've never been wrong before, Anko said as she reached for her ANBU communicator. Before I call in an ANBU strike, show me where it came from. I'm in charge, but you have the better senses. Let's move, Naruto, Anko said, put her mask back on and leapt off the roof after Naruto. As she followed him around, she quickly realized where they always ended up near. It's Sasuke's family, Naruto said shakily. I can hear him inside. Someone is killing everyone in there. He's a jerk, but he's still my friend and nobody is gonna hurt my friends, Naruto said fiercely, then jumped up onto and over the wall around the Uchiha compound. Damn it, Naruto, wait for fucking hothead. Anko switched on her communicator. This is Venom, code red 2, Uchiha compound, Anko said quickly but clearly and followed Naruto over the wall to help. 2 minutes later, Uchiha compound. Naruto ran through the halls toward the main bedrooms where Sasuke and his parents were. If he hadn't been here a few times already, he'd have gotten lost trying to find everyone. He'd already found the Uchiha elders and many of their jounin that made up the Konoha police force. All of them dead. It made him sick to see it. They weren't just killed. They were slaughtered like animals. Many had been decapitated or split open. He heard screaming and recognized it as Makoto, Sasuke's mother. Makoto kneeled on the floor as she hugged the unconscious Sasuke protectively. Tears poured from her Sharingan eyes. She was a jounin, but knew fighting was useless. Her husband was far stronger than her, and the man before her had decapitated him easily and now stood over her, his bloody sword raised. Why, Itachi-kun? Makoto said softly, with extreme sadness and confusion, then closed her eyes and waited for the death blow. Then there was a crash and the sound of wood shattering, and a wave of chakra hit her so filled with rage and power it knocked her out. 1 minute later, Anko jumped through the hole in the wall she knew had to be from Naruto, a kunai in each hand, just in time to see a face she hoped she'd never have to again, and was instantly filled with near-blinding rage. Orochimaru! Anko screamed with every ounce of rage she'd held in for years. Orochimaru smiled very snake-like at Anko as he pulled a kunai from his shoulder. Another time, Anko-chan. I'll see you again, boy, you are most interesting, Orochimaru said, then melted into the ground before Anko's kunai struck the ground moments before her fists. Fucking snake bastard, I'll kill you! Anko roared in rage as she'd lunged at him after she threw her kunai. That was the moment 20 ANBU, led by Kakashi and Asuma, appeared in the room. They saw 6 people, an enraged Anko on her knees punching the floor, for Uchiha, an unconscious Makoto and her son Sasuke, the headless corpse of their husband/father, and an unconscious Itachi, who appeared to be badly beaten, and to their shock and fear, Naruto, in a 2-tailed red chakra cloak. Kakashi took a step forward as he pulled up his Hitai to reveal his Sharingan eye. Did you do this? I did not kill the Uchiha, Anko-chan will explain, Kyuubi said, withdrew all his chakra, and the unconscious Naruto fell forward. Kakashi caught Naruto and turned to the now calmer Anko. Shocked. Anko-chan. Kakashi blankly repeated what Kyuubi had just called her. Anko stood, composed herself as best she could, and nodded. I'll explain everything later. It was Orochimaru and Itachi, but I don't know if he was a partner or puppet, and right now I don't fucking care. I'll talk to the old man tomorrow. Right now I'm Jing Home Kakashi. Anyone tries to stop me and I swear I'll fucking castrate him. Anko said with calm sadness and anger, then casually walked out and headed home. Kakashi had seen Anko like this only once before and knew not to mess with her until she calmed down and sorted her feeling out. Let her go, call in backup and get any survivors to the hospital. Take Itachi to the maximum security wing for treatment. I'll take Naruto home and stay with him. You give Anko a few minutes, then tell her to go to Naruto's on Hokage-sama's orders. You tell Hokage-sama to meet us at Naruto's place right away. Dismissed. Everyone did as told. Kakashi vanished with Naruto in a swirl of wind and leaves. 58 minutes later, Naruto's house. Is that everything, Kakashi, Anko? Sarutobi said calmly. Kakashi nodded. Hi, Anko said. Sarutobi turned to the being on the bed. Naruto must be told, if my former student is after your power, Naruto must be told about you and properly trained. If you weren't able to defeat him with two tails, you must be stronger. Sarutobi said and sighed. Orochimaru is relentless, and now that he knows of you, he will be prepared next time. The red-eyed Naruto sighed, slightly annoyed. I do not like this, I would have preferred another year, but I have no choice. Two tails wasn't enough power to kill him, only hurt him. To kill him and ensure he can never return, I will need 5 tails. I will not allow Naruto to be used by that bastard, or get any of my power. Kyuubi, in control of Naruto's body, got of the bed, walked up to Anko and put his left hand gently on her cheek. Kakashi's visible eyebrow went up slightly at the more than just friends gesture. Anko-chan, I know I also speak for Naruto on this. We will not let him hurt you ever again. We will kill him for you. Kyuubi said in a very caring, but still demonic voice, slipped his left hand behind her head in her wild purple hair. His right went up under her shirt and gently squeezed her left breast as he pulled her face down into a passionate kiss. You are as special to us as Hinata-chan, and once I have mated with her, we will give you the happiness you've been denied. Kyuubi said, released the stunned Anko, laid on his bed and pulled back all his chakra. Anko, have you and NAR? Kakashi said, then froze. Anko had a kunai at his throat and a big snarl on her face. You say one more word, Cyclops, or tell anyone, especially Naruto, what just happened with me and Kyuubi, and I swear I'll kill you and feed your remains to my snakes. Anko said in her coldest voice. Not that it's any of your fucking business. But what just happened is as far as Kyuubi has gone. Naruto has only kissed me a couple times as a friend. I happen to like the brat because he understands the shit I've been through. I respect you as a ninja and my superior, but as a man you're losing ground fast. Kakashi nodded carefully. He'd never seen Anko like this before, but knew her well enough to know when she wasn't bluffing. I'm sorry, Anko, I was out of line. I don't know him as well as you. Anko, please calm down. I'm well aware of your friendship with Naruto and what you've been doing. I'm pleased that you're just friends, but he'll also be told he's betrothed to Hinata Hyuga, as she will be told. As you know Orochimaru better than anyone else and can sense him, I'm reassigning you from the ANBU to be Naruto's personal bodyguard, until he can draw on at least 5 tails. This will keep you near him as well as Hinata and continue his training when he's not with anyone else. And please, put away your kunai, Anko, Sarutobi said calmly. Anko put away her kunai and smiled at Sarutobi. I accept, and thank you, Anko said, then bowed. Anko, be in my office tomorrow morning at 8 with Naruto. I'll tell him everything then. Anko, you may stay here to watch him tonight. Kakashi, you will not speak of this to anyone. Dismissed, Sarutobi said and gave them a slight nod. Kakashi nodded to Sarutobi. If you'll mind having me around, I'll get to know him as a person, Kakashi said and waited a moment. When Anko nodded, he vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. Anko lunged forward and gave her surrogate father a quick hug and kiss on his cheek. Thanks, old man. Sarutobi smiled. Anko was the only other person he let call him old man. But unlike Naruto, she didn't do it in front of anyone. Give him a chance, Anko, you know what he's lost. Hi, as long as Naruto doesn't mind having him around, Anko said and sighed. Sarutobi smiled and vanished. Anko pulled up a chair and sat next to bed to watch over Naruto. 8:14 a.m. The next morning, Hokage Tower. Sarutobi looked at the only slightly teary-eyed Naruto. He'd taken it better than he expected, though there had been a few tense moments. "Are you all right, Naruto?" Sarutobi said in a warm, fatherly voice. Naruto wiped his tears on his sleeve and composed himself. "Hi. I'll be fine, old man. At least now I know why everyone hated me and why I have so much chakra. And you've known all along, Anko-chan." Anko sniffled nervously. "Hi. I couldn't tell you though. I'm sorry I had to lie to you like that, Naruto-kun. I can still call you Kun, can't I? If you'd rather have someone else guard you." Naruto smiled warmly up at her. "Of course you can, Anko-chan, and I'd love to have you around. At least I can introduce you to Hinata-chan now," Naruto said, then his eyes got big. "I'm really gonna marry Hinata-chan someday?" Naruto said to Sarutobi. "Hi, her parents are telling her as we've talked. There's one more thing. Though you'll legally be an adult when you earn your hitayite, you can't be married until you're both 15, which means you must wait at least 6 years. Promise me you'll wait until then before you do anything with Hinata or anyone else," Sarutobi said in a stern, fatherly voice. "Do anything? Oh, that stuff. Hi, I promise," Naruto said firmly. Sarutobi smiled. "Good. I know you never break a promise, Naruto. Before you go, I'm going to arrange for you to have a special sensei to train you how to use Kyuubi's chakra. Remember, only the parents, your teachers, and the Jounin no Kyuubi is sealed inside you, Naruto. For safety, I'd prefer you not tell anyone. But if you must or feel they can handle it, you may tell your friends. Just be sure they can handle it. Everyone may not understand. Just remember, you are the jailer, not the prisoner. Be sure they understand that." "Dismissed." Naruto nodded, turned and left the office, Anko right behind him. Sarutobi took out his pipe, lit it, took a puff and chuckled. "You can come in now, Jiraiya. I never could hide from your Sarutobi-sensei," Jiraiya said as he came in through the window. "So that's his kid, huh? Looks just like him. Why didn't you tell him who his dad was?" Jiraiya said. Sarutobi sighed. "I will. When he turns 16 he'll be told and inherit the Namikaze estates. Until then you won't tell him." "Hi. I assume you want me to keep tabs on Orochimaru," Jiraiya said seriously. "Hi. And give Naruto a couple hours to talk with Hinata before you meet him," Sarutobi said and puffed his pipe. "Before you go, do you have a copy of the newest issue?" Jiraiya let OU a short perverted giggle, pulled the small book from his vest pocket and handed it to him. "Hi, your early signed copy. It won't be out for another week. Anything for my old sensei," Jiraiya said, then vanished. Chapter 04, Lucky 7. Naruto age 12, 7:42 p.m. Academy. "Naruto Uzumaki," Irika said from the doorway and smirked. He was one of the few people at the academy that knew how strong Naruto really was. He knew how much his favorite student held back to just edge out Sasuke Uchiha as top student, not just among the boys but everyone. As Naruto headed for him to take his final exam, he knew it was only a formality, but he had to do it. Though she wasn't always around where everyone could see her, he was the only other person in the room. The new Anko was outside in a tree watching through the window. He subtly glanced out the window and nodded to her. "I'm ready, Irika-sensei. Let's get in there and get my hitayite," Naruto exclaimed with his usual excitement, then waved to the class and followed Irika into the room. Ino watched Naruto enter the exam room and the door close behind him, adjusted her sleeveless purple shirt over her full breasts. Like her mother, she developed early and loved to show off her body, had one of her usual ideas and stood. "Who wants to bet me Naruto-kun won't pass? If he fails, I'll show you my breasts," Ino said brazenly and smiled. She waited as she looked around the room. She looked at the always horny Kiba and smiled a little bigger when he shook his head no. Even he wouldn't take the bet. Ino pouted sadly and sat down. She didn't show it, but inside she was laughing her head off. She loved to tease the boys like that. Sakura hunched forward slightly in her seat to hide her small chest. She was one of the smartest students at the academy, but she'd happily be the dumbest if she could have big breasts instead of a big forehead. "I may not be one of bustiest girls like you, Ino Pig, but thanks to Naruto-kun I'm the strongest," Sakura thought and straightened up. A minute later the door opened and Naruto walked out with a huge smile on his face and a shiny new leaf Hittite on his forehead. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. Hinata, Tenten, Sakura and Ino said in unison, looked at each other a moment, then broke out in giggles. Thanks girls, it was easy, Naruto exclaimed and gave everyone his patented foxy smile. Irika chuckled at their antics. Ino Yamanaka. Ino stood with a big smile. She was the last person to go, but she knew she'd pass. Everyone else had their Hittite already. No way was she going to fail. Naruto went back to his seat, but before he sat he pushed himself up on the table behind him with his hands and leaned over it to get a kiss from his girlfriend and fiancée Hinata. Thanks Hinata-chan, Naruto said and dropped to the floor. I knew you'd do it, Naruto-kun, Hinata said happily as she listened to every girl in class whimper quietly, which made her smile happily because she was his girlfriend, and as far as most knew, the only girl he ever kissed because he wanted to. Most of the girls had only kissed Naruto that first day because of the bet. Everyone chatted quietly for about 2 minutes when the door opened and Ino came out with her new Hittite tied around her forehead. Never doubt the diva, Ino exclaimed proudly and raised her arms with a flourish. Sit down, Miss Diva, or you and your girls will be taking my class again next year while your friends are on missions, Irika said seriously, then looked at Naruto and smirked subtly. He knew as well as everyone that Ino often referred to her breasts as her girls. Ino crossed her arms protectively over her chest, blushed bright red, ran to her seat and slumped under the table enough to hide her chest. Everyone was red-faced from holding in their laughter at seeing Ino shut down so completely. Now that everyone has passed and become genin, congratulations. As you all know, we're assigning new teams this year, so be quiet while I tell you who your teammates and sensei will be, Irika said with a small smile. Naruto listened as Irika read off names for Team 1, 2, 3. He wondered who he'd be paired with and his friends. Though he knew everyone in class, none of his close friends had been called. Until Irika got to Team 6. Team 6 will be Suku Nagato, Chichi Kazumu, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your sensei is Kakashi Hatake, Irika said. Naruto watched the first two stand and move near Sasuke. Suku, or Bull as his friends called him, was the biggest kid at the academy. His ninjutsu and jinjutsu were just good enough for him to pass, as were his grades, but with taijutsu he was about as easy to stop as an avalanche. Chichi was his opposite. She was strong where he was weak, and she was shy like Hinata used to be. He'd met her through Hinata 2 years ago and was glad he had. She wanted to be a top med nin like her mother. They'll be a good team. He's the muscle, she's smart and can heal. Sasuke is good at ninjutsu, weapons, is the best fighter next to me, and he'll probably activate his Sharingan soon. Naruto thought, then glanced subtly at another friend. At least Sasuke is at school. I wonder why Bushy Brow won't show anyone how good he really is. Or that he wears those weights. Well, he has his reasons for keeping it secret. And I did promise him I wouldn't tell anyone. Naruto thought, then turned and listened intently to Irika when he started to read off the names of Team 7, especially since the first name really got his attention. Hinata, Tenten, and Naruto Uzumaki, Irika said with a very restrained smile. The whole class went silent as they heard the third name. Even all the jealous girls were quiet. They wanted to know who was the sensei of what everyone knew would be the most powerful of all the teams. When she heard his name, Hinata's eyes immediately glazed over, and her mind jumped back to when she was told she was betrothed to Naruto. Flashback. Hinata entered her father's study nervously. Her mother was also there, and she couldn't read either of their faces. They only looked like that when they had something important, and sometimes bad, to say to her. She was used to it from her father, even inside the compound, but to see her mother like that was even scarier to her. Her parents' point of view. Before we tell you why you're here, I think privacy is called for, Hannah said emotionlessly, then flashed through several hand signs. Seal. Now that no one will hear the screams, we may begin, Hannah said coolly and subtly glanced at Hinata, who was almost terrified. I'm sorry to put you through this, Hinata-chan, but Naruto-kun has rubbed off on me and I couldn't resist, Hannah thought. Hayashi almost lost his composure at what his wife just said, but knew this would more than make up for it. As head of the main family of the Hyuga clan, it is my duty to inform you, Hinata Hyuga, that you are betrothed to Naruto Uzumaki and will marry him when you turn 15. Hinata, who'd had her head down, answered out of reflex before what she'd heard fully registered in her mind. I'm sorry, father, I'll do better next. Hinata's head suddenly whipped up as her body locked up tight. Her mouth hung wide open and her white eyes were at least as big as saucers. I'm what? Hinata said with a severe stutter. Hana's smile was even bigger than Hayashi's ear-to-ear smile. You're betrothed to Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan. When you turn 15, you're going to marry him. Hana watched her daughter's face for a full minute before it started. She saw a smile of happiness slowly appear on Hinata's face, the likes of which even Kami had never seen. She nudged Hayashi and gave him a sub-nod before she focused chakra into her ears to protect them from what she knew was coming. A moment later it happened. She watched Hinata unleash a scream of joy that would have made even Kyuubi cringe years ago when it attacked the village. She watched Hinata leap around the room, throwing up her arms and almost literally screaming her head off. She was so happy. At that moment, she doubted even the entire clan could restrain Hinata. She knew putting a sound seal on the room first was a good idea. End flashback. Your sensei is Anko Mitarashi, Irika said, just barely holding back his emotions from showing on his face. The whole room gasped, especially Naruto. All right, Naruto yelled excitedly as he jumped up on his seat, fists raised, a huge smile on his face. Irika broke out laughing hard for a moment before he composed himself. Please sit down, Naruto. Naruto froze a moment, looked around and gave everyone an oops grin, then sat down. Team 8 is Sakura Haruno, Ino Yamanaka and Shikamaru Nara. Your sensei is Kurenai Yuhi, Irika said. Naruto glanced at his friends. A spy team? That'll be useful. Sakura is happy she gets to learn genjutsu from the best. Ino is surprised but doesn't look upset. I guess she figured she'd get put into a new Ino Shikacho. And Shikamaru? He's gonna be surrounded by women like his mom all day. He'll never get any rest now. Kurenai-chan will push him to be his best. It'll be good for him. Naruto thought and almost laughed at his lazy friend's plight. Team 9 is Niji Hyuga, Rock Lee and Chuji Akimichi, your sensei. I'm sorry to tell you, Irika said with amused pity. Is Might Guy. YOSH. Rock Lee yelled excitedly and pumped his fist in the air. Everyone else let out an exasperated sigh, looked down and shook their head. They all liked and respected Guy. He was a great person, but 5 minutes around him and his fires of youth speeches made you want to jam a kunai in your neck and end the torture. Everyone knew if he was around, your only hope was Kakashi, Guy's hip eternal rival, or Naruto, with one exception, Rock Lee, who actually liked Guy and thought he was cool. No one held that against Lee though. A taijutsu team, cool. With Niji's Byakugan and Jukin, Lee's speed and special skills, and Chuji's expansion jutsu. They'll be awesome. He'll never be able to use a jutsu, but I'm glad they put Lee on a team this year. Niji too, I guess their lucky Guy wouldn't let them take the Chunin exams last year, and that the graduating class was an odd number because of Tenten-chan. Naruto thought. As we had an odd number of students, 2 of you will have to wait for next year. I'm sorry. Team 10 is Shino Aburame, Kiba Inuzuka and Irika said. There were only 3 kids left and 1 open team spot. The new Kunoichi weren't the bottom students, but they were near it. Kiba looked at the 3 girls as Irika started to talk, one of which was about to be his teammate, and frowned. Just fucking great. I'm gonna get a bitch with a red afro, a pint-sized bully, or... Kiba thought, then smiled when her name was called. Fuki. I'm sorry, Harumi. Ami. Irika said. Fuki squeaked in surprise, looked at her 2 long-time friends with shock. She never expected to get picked over them. She could walk across an empty room and manage to bump into or trip over something. She saw Kiba shrug, give her a half-smile and wave her over. She almost smiled when she heard him tell Shino he thought she was at least cute. She pulled up her big scarf to hide her blush, got up, crossed the room to sit by Kiba, and bumped into 4 desks on the way. She was so nervous. Who's our sensei? Kiba barked out as he watched the in the oversized scarf and jacket fumble her way across the room. Probably Asuma, he's the only jounin left. Except for. Naruto thought, then had a feeling Irika wasn't about to say Asuma. Itachi Uchiha, Iruka said calmly, but inside he was nervous. He was one of the few that knew what really happened that night, and although he'd been a puppet of Orochimaru, he'd personally wiped out about 3/4 of his clan, including his father. He knew Itachi had been cleared by Inoichi, Kurenai, and Ibiki as loyal and mentally stable. Though he'd objected to the idea, he figured that if Sarutobi trusted him, that was good enough for him. "What?" Sasuke said as he stood suddenly and slapped the table with both hands. "Please sit, Sasuke. It's Hokage-sama's idea. You can talk to Itachi tonight at home. Your mother has already been told and approves. Before you ask, no, you can't be transferred to his team. You and Itachi are the only 2 active male Uchiha, and we can't risk putting you both on one team," Iruka said seriously. Sasuke thought about that for a moment, then nodded and sat down. He knew Iruka was right. This was best for the clan. The only other remaining male Yukika were old or little kids, not even in the academy yet. "Your sensei will arrive soon to pick you up. Please wait in this room," Iruka said, organized the papers on his desk, picked them up and left. Sasuke, Bull, Chi-Chi, you better get comfortable. Kakashi won't be here for about 2 hours, Naruto said with a big smirk. He'd gotten to know him the last couple years and had even learned a bunch of cool jutsu from him privately. Only a few of his friends knew how strong he really was, or about his special friend he always had with him. Sasuke wasn't one of them though. He wanted to tell him, but knew his friend wasn't quite ready for the truth yet. Almost, but not quite. 8:12 a.m. Naruto was talking with Hinata and Tenten when he suddenly smirked and turned to the door. Anko barged in brashly with a big sadistic smile on her face. "I'm Anko Mitarash. Which of you maggots are mine? Let her have her moment. Play along and act intimidated," Naruto whispered to Hinata and Tenten. They knew Anko almost as well as he did, and that underneath what most saw they knew Anko was as much a goofy kid as he was, even more so as she never had a real childhood. Naruto raised his hand. "I am Anko-sensei." Hinata and Tenten nodded subtly and did the same, but looked slightly intimidated. Anko smiled coldly. "Oh good. I get Mr. Lucky and his fangirls. You're just another brat to me. So you and the bimbos get your shit and follow me," Anko commanded, then turned and walked toward the door. Naruto waited until Anko was near the door. "My sensei is that crazy bitch?" Naruto said just loud enough that everyone heard him. At the door, Anko drew a kunai as she spun and threw it at Naruto. It stuck in the chair an inch from his crotch. "What was that, you little shit?" Naruto acted surprised and jumped up with his best scared face. "Sorry, Anko-sensei." Anko smiled cruelly and gave Naruto a very subtle nod the others would miss as she listened to everyone laugh nervously, and the comments about how they were glad she wasn't their-sensei. "Thanks, Naruto-kun. I owe you one for that. Maybe the 4 of us will play poker tonight and I'll up the stakes from food to something more fun," Anko thought as she turned and left the classroom. 8:26 a.m. Training Ground 13. Naruto-kun, Hinata, Tenten. "Just between us, this final test is a waste of time. You 3 are already a team, but I have to do it as your sensei. Naruto, stay at their level. You know, out on missions you can't show your true strength except in a real emergency, so think of this as just another practice," Anko said, pushed up the left sleeve of her trench coat, bit her right thumb and smeared the blood over her snake tattoo. "Summoning jutsu," Anko said. There was a huge puff of smoke 20 feet away, and when it cleared a moment later it revealed a huge coiled green snake that reared up to almost 20 feet and nodded to Anko. Naruto, Hinata, and Tenten were impressed. That was the biggest snake they'd ever seen her summon. "This is Laniran. I rarely get to summon him, but he has a special ability I can use here," Anko said and turned to Laniran. "Remember what I told you to do," Anko said, then took 3 blank tags from her pocket, gave one to each of them and nodded to her summon. Laniran started turning and twisting his head and neck a moment, then split down to where it started to coil into 2 complete heads. A moment later the main head did it again. "That was awesome. He has 3 heads now," Naruto exclaimed. "Your mission is simple. Each of you has to put your tag on top of a head, but you can only place your tag, and you each have to tag a different head. One more thing. You only have until 11 o'clock when I'm going to lunch. If you haven't all tagged him or one of you gets knocked out, you all fail," Anko said, took a pocket watch from her trench coat and waited a moment. "Begin." The moment Anko said begin, Laniran uncoiled and raced toward the far end of the training ground at incredible speed for an almost 60-foot snake. He's fast. This'll be harder than I thought, Tenten said, impressed. Yeah, it'll be fun. Hinata-chan and I will distract him while you circle around from behind Tenten-chan and place your tag first. You should be fast enough to dodge his attacks long enough to get close. And don't get hit, Naruto said. I don't have to get close. I think I can stick one on with one of my new darts. It'll bounce off and the tag will come off when it sticks to its head. It's a tough shot, but I can do it, Tenten said. Okay. Stay close, Hinata-chan, and I will get it to follow us to that big tree there, Naruto said and pointed. You hide there and wait for your opening. Ready? Hinata nodded. Hi. Tenten nodded. Hi, and be careful you too. They nodded and raced down the training ground, Tenten along the side, Naruto and Hinata down the middle toward their target. 10:38 a.m. Hinata had just vaulted over Laniran's head, and while upside down used her hand's speed to plant her tag, landed and rolled away. As Hinata rolled to safety, a dozen shuriken bounced off Laniran's left side head Hinata had just tagged. Over here, scale face. Even with 3 heads you can't hit me, Naruto taunted very childishly and threw 6 shuriken at the center head he had to tag. Naruto suddenly yawned and stretched. I thought you were supposed to be tough. I might as well get something to eat for all the challenge you are, Naruto said, obviously bored, and turned his back to the giant snake. Naruto stood there a moment, then reached behind him and scratched his butt with his right hand, through his pants of course. Just as he finished, he leapt straight up as a huge snake head passed under him. He landed on it, saw there was no tag and slapped his down. Gotcha, we win, Naruto exclaimed excitedly and punched the air. The two sides' head came in and both looked down at the top of the center head, then hung in defeat. Congratulations, great teamwork. Which was the real reason for this anyway. You could have failed to tag all 3 heads. What mattered was whether or not you worked as a team. I knew you'd do it. Thanks, Laniran. You can leave if you want to, Anko said. Laniran bowed all 3 heads, then vanished in a puff of smoke. Anko waited a minute for Hinata and Tenten to join Naruto. Great job, we're now officially Teen 7. Lunch is on me, so where do you want to eat? As if I didn't already know. Anko sighed and gave Naruto a familiar smirk. Naruto gave Anko a big foxy smile. Ichiraku ramen. Hinata and Tenten giggled, then whispered to each other a moment. Naruto-kun, I'm cooking us dinner tonight at your house. You can't just have ramen, so I'm going to make rice with chicken and vegetables and you're going to eat it, Hinata said. If you're cooking, Hinata-chan, I'll eat it. Are Tenten-chan and Anko-chan, Anko-sensei coming too? Naruto said. If you guys don't mind, I'd love to. Can I bring dango for dessert? Anko said nervously. Of course you can, Anko-sensei. Right, Hinata-chan? Tenten-chan? Naruto exclaimed. Hinata and Tenten nodded. Now that I'm your sensei, I didn't want to impose. I also have a little entertainment planned for afterwards. If that's okay. Anko said, then waited a moment. She smiled when they all nodded. Good. Let's go eat. Now that they're genin, it's time Hinata and Tenten learn to play strip poker, Anko thought. Chapter 05. Let's play. 6:28 p.m. Naruto's place. I don't mind learning to play poker, Naruto-kun. But strip poker, Hinata said nervously and pressed her index fingers together, something she hadn't done in several years. Me too, Naruto-kun. You know we'd do anything for you. But if my dad found out Tenten said nervously and put her small hands over her breasts, which just fit in them. He'd ground me until I was 18, and Mom would totally freak out. Naruto just smiled, not even a hint of worry on his face. He stepped up and put a hand on their shoulders. Don't worry, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan. We could do this with them sitting here and neither of you would get in trouble. Hinata and Tenten glanced at each other, actually surprised, despite how well they knew him. Even for Naruto that was a lot. Naruto saw the glances and had a feeling he knew a question was coming. Do you trust me? Naruto said calmly and looked past them to Anko, who had a big smile on her face and nodded. Hi. Both girls said together without hesitation. Then relax and trust me. Everything has been taken care of, Naruto said warmly. Both girls nodded and relaxed. Good. I got the table set up in the dining room, and the food. Let's go play, Enko said with a big smile. Everyone went to the table and sat down. I already know how to play poker, and you know how lucky I am. I'll sit out the first game so you and Tenten-chan can get the hang of it. Okay, Hinata-chan? Naruto said. Hinata nodded. Can we just learn regular poker first, Enko-chan? Hi, we'll play a warm-up game of poker so you two can learn it. Naruto-kun, get the poker chips, Enko said. Naruto got the poker chips and passed them out. 20 red, 20 blue, 20 white. The red ones are worth 10, the blue 5, and the white 1. Since this is your first time, the ante will be 1. That's money you have to put in the pot before each hand starts. Naruto said and explained how to play. Then the hands, what they were called, the cards in them, and what beat what. That's a straight flush. The best hand you can have is called a royal flush. That's the 5 highest cards in order: ace, king, queen, jack, and 10. All of the same suit. Got it, Naruto said and waited a moment until both girls nodded. Good. Compared to learning Jutsu poker is really pretty easy, isn't it? Hinata and Tenten nodded. Oh, Hinata-chan, no Byakugan, that's cheating. I know you wouldn't do that, but that and using a jutsu is against the rules. Enko-chan has played a few times in casinos and they have special security that can detect chakra if you use it, even a tiny amount. Think of this like training, it helps with strategy and controlling your emotions, Naruto said. Hinata and Tenten nodded. I couldn't have said it better myself, I'll start. Enko said with a smile, shuffled the cards and dealt 5 to each, except Naruto. Then picked up her hand and put in a white chip, then watched Hinata and Tenten do the same. Enko glanced to her right where Naruto sat. Then across from her was Hinata, and Tenten to her left. Let's see, pair of queens, a 2, 5, and 7. Not much, but I can use it. Enko thought, then discarded 3 and drew new cards. Shit. Ah, another queen. I'll bet 5. Enko said calmly and tossed in a blue chip. Hinata looked at her cards, briefly glanced at Enko when she bet to try and read her, but couldn't. Enko is good at this. All I have are these small numbers, I need a new. Wait, what's that called when you have 5 in sequence but different suits? A straight flush. It's only 2 through 6, but if I bluff well I should win this hand. Hinata thought. I bet 5. Hinata said calmly and put in a blue chip. 2 7s, 2 8s and a 3. If I remember right, this is 2 pairs. Not much, but it'll do. Oh, Enko did this. Tenten thought, then discarded her 3 and drew a third 7. Tenten resisted the urge to smile happily as she normally would. Like if she was on a mission, she had to hide her emotions. I'll bet 5. Tenten said and put in a blue chip. Good poker faces for new genin, but they were the top kunoichi at the academy. Good start, but it's time to separate the girls from the women. Enko thought, let a small frown appear on her face for a few moments, waited just long enough for them to see it and tossed in a blue and red chip. I raised 10. Enko said with a little false bravado. She wanted them to think she was bluffing and bet big. Hinata smiled big and matched Enko's bet. Tenten held in her emotions and put in 2 red chips and a blue chip. I raised 10. Enko called, watched Hinata and Tenten stay in, then smiled and showed her cards. 3 queens bitches. Beat 'em if you can, Enko said proudly. Tenten smiled. Good hand, Enko. But your 3 bitches just got evicted from my full house. Tenten said happily and showed her cards. Enko's face fell. You little bitch, Enko said annoyed and frowned. Naruto laughed. Hinata smiled broadly and showed her hand. Sorry, Tenten-chan, but you're my bitch. Straight flush. Tenten paled and face planted on the table. Naruto fell off his chair and rolled on the floor holding his stomach, he was laughing so hard. Enko just stared at Hinata and clenched her jaw. Fucking beginner's luck. Enko mumbled, then sighed in amused defeat. You got lucky, Hinata, but we just started. 7:56 p.m. Naruto watched his girlfriend and new sensei closely. Tenten had been taken out about an hour ago. Hinata and Anko had bet everything they had left on one final hand. He was happy, but not totally surprised Hinata had picked it up so fast or how lucky she was. She wasn't as lucky as he was, but nobody was. She had held her own against Anko though. You're a great girl, Hinata, and a good friend. But in battle or cards I go right for the tits. So kiss yours goodbye. Full house, jacks over tens. Anko said, smiled proudly and showed her hand. Hinata looked at Anko and her face changed from emotionless to a big smile. That'd be hard to do with your womanhood kicked up into your neck, Anko-chan. Straight flush. Hinata said calmly as she showed her hand. Anko's face and posture dropped, then a smile crept onto her face as she started to laugh, softly at first. Congratulations, Hinata equals Chan. You ready to try strip poker now? Naruto said with a big smile. I'm still really nervous about this, and even with you, Tenten-chan and Anko-chan, I'm pretty shy. But for you, Naruto-kun, I'll do it. Hinata said, slightly nervous and with a small blush. I'm ready. It's no different than going to the hot spring. Except you'll be here, Naruto-kun. Tenten said, then paused a moment and turned to Hinata. Speaking of the hot springs, why haven't you ever joined me, Hinata-chan? Too embarrassed. I'm used to being alone or with Hanabi or Kasan. Hinata said shyly. Well, you're from a big clan, not like me and Naruto-kun, so you were raised differently than we were. Tenten said and smiled. She is a princess, Naruto said and smiled when Hinata blushed. Then she'll be royally embarrassed when I leave her naked, Anko said and laughed. Since this is their first time, Anko-chan, I want to change the rules a little. Before I do, I want to remind you that shoes count as one thing, so do socks and everything else you wear too can only bet what you have on. But you don't take it off unless you lose that hand, only the winner of the hand keeps their clothes on. When you lose all your clothes, you have to stand over there so everyone can see you, and you can't cover up. That okay with everyone? Naruto said. Anko nodded. That's fine with me. Hi, Tenten said casually. Hinata nodded. As she cleared the table, Anko looked at Naruto. Naruto, we know if you play to win, we'll all be naked in 5 or 6 quick hands. So I'm asking you as your friend and sensei. Give us a chance. Anko said calmly, almost submissively. Naruto sighed and nodded. Hi, that's only fair since Hinata-chan and Tenten-chan are playing. Naruto said. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Anko said. If you don't mind, I'll deal. Naruto said. Anko thought a moment and handed him the cards. 3 hands later. Naruto looked around happily. Everyone was now barefoot. Anko had lost her trench coat and mesh shirt, leaving her topless. Tenten was only in her panties and sports bra, which Tenten playfully said she only wore to keep my little boobs from bouncing too much, though she didn't really need it. As he thought, Hinata was doing well. She still had on her black knee shorts, dark blue shirt he could only seen the collar of, and her gray jacket he'd never seen her without. He'd lost one on purpose so he could take his shirt off. He liked how Tenten and Hinata blushed lightly when they looked at his lean, muscled body. He knew Anko looked at him too, but as Anko liked to say, he had her by the tits, and though he could now that he'd learned about girls and sex, from the academy and several adults that had given him the talk, he'd promised not to do anything with them until he'd married Hinata. That didn't mean he couldn't look though. Your bet, Anko. I don't have a choice. I want to win back my shirt and trench coat, so I'm all in, Anko said seriously. Naruto just smirked. Me too. Tenten was surprised, then smiled. I'll just end up naked. But I've wanted to show Naruto-kun my boobs since I got 'em. I'm all in too. Hinata was blushing bright red. I. Come on, Hinata-chan, you're a kunoichi now. If you're going to be on my team, you won't have any weaknesses. And being shy is a weakness. So suck it up, grow some tits and go all in, Anko said seriously. Anko saw a very subtle flinch when she told Hinata to grow some tits. No. That has to be it though. That's why she never takes that fucking jacket off. She's probably fucking stacked and is ashamed of her body or thinks something is wrong with her. Anko thought, then glanced subtly at Naruto, and when she locked eyes with him, gave him a subtle nod towards Hinata's chest. Then saw the reaction in his eyes she just had. Hinata felt a foot on her leg and looked at Anko. The look she saw on Anko's face has only one meaning. Then she saw the same look on Naruto's face. But Tenten didn't seem to. Oh, Kami. They know. I can do this. Mom said I'd have to show them eventually. They're my best friends. Naruto is gonna marry me in 3 years and Enko in my sensei now. If Naruto-kun can trust us with his secret, I can too. Hinata thought, then pushed down her blush. I'm all in too. Okay, lay him down. Full house. Queen high. Enko said with a smile. 2 pair, tens and jacks. Ten said sadly. Hinata smiled and looked at Naruto. Straight flush. See, can you beat teach that Naruto-kun? Hinata said nervously, with a stutter she hadn't done in years. Naruto's face was emotionless as he laid his cards on the able. Royal flush. Sorry, Hinata-chan. Hinata whimpered a moment then sighed. That's okay, Naruto-kun. I knew this would happen eventually. I'll go last if that's okay. Enko nodded, stood and stepped out into the room. Hinata, Ten, until we can be more than just friends, this stays between us. Since we're sharing secrets anyway. I'll tell you both in case you didn't figure it out already. Naruto-kun owns my ass, heart and soul. We haven't done anything yet because he's waiting until he marries you, Hinata-chan. But if he wanted to walk me naked through the streets on a leash with property of Naruto Uzumaki tattooed across my tits, I'd do it with a smile. I'm not the only one, but it's not my place to reveal anyone else. Do either of you have a problem with this? Enko said seriously. No, Enko-sensei, Ten said. No, Enko-chan, Hinata said. Good. You learned this at the academy, but pictures aren't the same as experience. Enko said, then pulled down and stepped out of her knee shorts and panties. This is what a real woman's body looks like. Any questions? Enko said proudly. Naruto just smiled, he'd seen her already. Hinata stood. I do. When did you develop and how big are you? I was 10 and had these babies before I was 11. I'm a big D cup, almost an E, and one of the biggest kunoichi in Konoha. As you all know, the biggest kunoichi tits in Konoha belong your mother Hana. Both of mine together are almost as big as one of hers. Lucky bitch. No offense, Hinata, Enko said. Hinata smiled, blushed and nodded. I know, and it's okay, Enko-chan, I know you're friends. My turn, I guess. Besides, I may be a genin now, but Mom would blister my butt if she found out I went back on a deal, even one she didn't like. You know how she is, Naruto-kun. Dad wouldn't let me help him at the shop for a month at least, and he'd blister my butt too. I wouldn't sit for a week. Ten said. Got up, walked to Enko and removed her sports bra and panties with only a slight blush. So what do you think, Naruto-kun? I don't have what Enko-sensei does up top, or even most of the girls that graduated with us, and I don't have anything down there yet, but I'm really cute. You're adorable, Tenten-chan, and I'll bet you'll look just like your mom in a couple years, Naruto said. Ten smiled. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Mom isn't quite as big as Enko-sensei, and told me that small boobs run in the family, but I hope I'll have enough to at least properly fill out a sports bra in a couple years. I'll never be as big as her though. Her, who are talking about Ten? Enko asked. Naruto and Hinata looked at Ten curiously. I guess I can tell you guys, but you have to promise me you won't tell anyone, and you won't put this in my record, Enko-sensei. Ten said seriously, but nervously. Naruto, Hinata, and Enko all nodded. The her I referred to is my idol. The Sannin Tsunade. Naruto, you know I like you and want to be more than friends. Well, you're the only boy I feel that way about. Not because of my age or anything. See, what I haven't told anyone is... Ten got really nervous and swallowed hard. Enko's eyes suddenly opened wider for a moment. How long have you known you were gay, Ten? Enko interrupted. Naruto and Hinata were shocked. But if you're gay, Ten, how can... Naruto said confused. Ten shrugged. I've known since I was 9, Enko-sensei. I don't know, Naruto-kun. You make me feel safe. I can trust you with my life and know you'll never hurt me. Naruto got up, walked to Ten and looked in her eyes. You're one of my best friends in the whole world, Tenten-chan. We have been since the second day of academy when you showed up. I'll always be your friend and protect you, no matter what. Naruto said with as much love as he could, then gave her a hug and kissed her left cheek. Besides, Now I have someone I can talk about girls with, Naruto said as he laughed through a big smile. Tenten returned his hug and smiled happily. When we're older, I'll help you get him too. I can learn all their secrets in places you can't go, Tenten said with a devious smile. Anko burst out laughing. Really hard. I love it. Tenten, Naruto and Anko laughed a minute longer. Then Tenten noticed Hinata wasn't. Hinata-chan. Are you mad at me? Or disgusted that I like girls that way? Tenten said nervously. Do you think about me that way? Hinata asked, then sighed when Tenten nodded. Naruto-kun, when we're finally married, will you want Anko-sensei, Tenten-chan, or others to join us? Naruto was quiet a moment, then sighed and nodded. Hi, Hinata-chan. But not behind your back, and I won't force you to do anything. But no matter what, you will always be my Hinata-heim and first in my heart. Hinata smiled. She knew he meant it. I guess I could learn to share you, as long as I'm always your true love. I'll be right back, Hinata said, then turned and went into the bathroom. Everyone waited nervously for almost 5 minutes before the bathroom door opened. Hinata walked out only in her oversized gray jacket. It hung just low enough to cover her entire body. Only her head, hands, and legs showed. This is no different than being at a public hot spring, though I haven't been to one. I can do this. We're just looking right, so it's okay, Hinata said nervously, as if trying to convince herself. Hinata walked across the room, stopped 8 feet in front of them and turned her back to them. Naruto watched and listened a moment, then heard the zipper on her jacket slide to the bottom and separate. He watched her fidget a moment, then turned back to them, her hands holding her jacket closed. Promise you won't laugh at me or anything? I'm kinda different, Hinata said nervously. I promise, they said together, then smirked. They'd said it at the same time. Naruto saw Hinata open her jacket and a huge dick flopped out. He immediately shut his eyes and appeared in front of Kyuubi's cage, who was rolling on the floor laughing. That wasn't funny, furball, Naruto screamed angrily. I couldn't resist the prank. The look on your face was priceless, Kyuubi said as he paused from his laughing fit, then lost it again. You'll pay for that later, furball, Naruto said, then vanished from his mindscape. I don't care what he does to me. That was so fucking worth it, Kyuubi said with a huge demonic smile. Back in the real world, 1 second after he promised. Thank you, Tenten-chan, Anko-sensei, and especially you, Naruto-kun. I just die as you laughed at me or said I was ugly, Hinata said honestly, took a deep breath, then quickly opened her jacket wide. Tenten got a nosebleed from both nostrils and fainted, her legs folded under her. Naruto got a minor nosebleed, but held his focus. Hinata. What size? Anko said, stunned. I'm a full E-cup. They're fat and saggy. But what do you think? Hinata said nervously. Beautiful, Hinata-chan, Naruto said, obviously impressed. Anko looked down at herself, blushed from shame and crossed her arms over her chest. Please cover up, Hinata. As a woman, I'm totally ashamed to stand here in your presence. Hinata closed her jacket, zipped it up, ran over to Anko and hugged her. Please don't be Anko-sensei. Thank you. Please get dressed, Hinata-chan. I'll wake Tenten and we'll get dressed. At the table, I figured out from your reaction that you were hiding big breasts. But I expected C cups, maybe D. And if you're like your mother, you probably aren't done growing yet. Then there's Tenten. We all have a lot to talk about, Anko said calmly, but inside her emotions were churning. Hinata nodded, turned and went back to the bathroom to get dressed. In Naruto's mindscape, Kyuubi was worried. Maybe I should have told him what Hinata was hiding last year when I figured it out. And Tenten, maybe that illusion was a bad idea, but it's his fuel, he didn't pay closer attention to them. Kyuubi thought to himself so Naruto wouldn't hear him. Lady Luck appeared in Naruto's mindscape, arms crossed over her chest, an angry frown on her face and tapping her right foot. Kyuubi took a very submissive posture on his belly. He'd forgotten he wasn't to mess with Naruto's relationship with Hinata. I'm fucked, Kyuubi said worried, then really got scared when he saw her smile sadistically, which on a celestial being was truly terrifying. Chapter 06. A New Wave. August 6th, 8:04 a.m., Hokage Tower, a month after graduation. Sarutobi smiled at Naruto. Naruto. Anko, your team will escort our client back to Wave Country to finish the bridge. Alright, we finally get a C-rank mission, Naruto exclaimed and punched the air. Don't get too excited, brat. A C-rank escort mission is only a small step up from a D-rank mission. If we're really lucky, and not a word brat, we'll get attacked by some bandits, not trained shinobi. I've done almost 200 of these. All you'll get out of this is maybe a few friends and a decent paycheck, Anko said, almost bored. She's right, Naruto, despite how skilled your team is, you're only getting this because it is such low risk. Please come in, Tazuna, Sarutobi said, the last line towards the door. Everyone turned to the door and saw a tall, thin man in worn clothes and straw hat. He had a weathered face, gray goatee and bottle of sake in his right hand. A bunch of kids? I thought I was getting trained ninja. They should be in school, and you should be dancing in a bar showing off those great TI. Tatsuna said, obviously a little drunk, then froze when 4 kunai buried in the wall around his head. 2 on each side, not an inch from his head, the top 2 pinning his hat to the wall. What did you say about Anko-sensei? Naruto said angrily, his arm still extended from his throw. Sarutobi sighed and slowly shook his head. Naruto, that's no way to treat a client. Regardless of what they say or how they treat you, your job is to protect them. You don't have to like them. Anko stepped up to Tazuna and pulled the kunai out of the wall. I would have aimed lower and pinned something else to the wall, Anko said softly but coldly, then handed the kunai back to Naruto. Tazuna swallowed very nervously and suddenly felt very sober. I obviously misjudged your skills. I apologize. The bandits have me on edge. I'm not a fighter. I'm a bridge builder. August 9th, 5:42 p.m., outside Wave Country border. They sat around the campfire, Anko across from Tazuna, Naruto to her right, Tenten to her left. Hinata sat next to Tazuna. She just deactivated her Byakugan after a scan of the area. Still clear, Hinata? Anko asked. Hi, Anko-sensei. All clear within 500 yards of us, Hinata said. Good. Naruto, since you don't sleep much anyway, you take first watch again. Wake me at midnight. We're leaving early in the morning. We should be in Wave tomorrow and reach the bridge in 2 days. Right? Anko said. Tazuna nodded. If we keep up this pace, we should reach the bridge in 2 days. Sorry I can't walk any faster, but I am an old man. Everyone laughed. They'd gotten to know him, and despite their first impression, he was a good guy. A bit of a pervert as he glacéed at Anko's basically bare chest beneath her mesh shirt when her trench coat allowed it. But they let that slide since he didn't say anything like he had in Sarutobi's office when they met him. Anko wasn't going to tell anyone, but she actually enjoyed teasing the old guy with intentional flashes, knowing he wouldn't say anything out of fear she's castrate him. It'll be dark soon, so get your bed set up. It won't rain tonight, so no tents. Tazuna, you can use my bedroll, I won't need it. Set up next to the fire, we can't have you getting sick. It gets chilly out here at night, Anko said, and got comfortable on the log she was sitting on and closed her eyes. How does she do that without falling over? Tazuna said, amazed. It's a shinobi trick. She doesn't fully go to sleep. If anything happens, she'll come out of it instantly. Just be quiet and don't bother her. She gets cranky if you disturb her and nothing is wrong. Trust me, you don't want to see Anko-sensei in a bad mood. Even our Anbu avoid her when she is, Naruto said quietly but seriously. Tazuna swallowed nervously and nodded. He wasn't from a shinobi village, but knew basically what Anbu were. If she scared them, he sure as hell wasn't going to upset her. August 11th, 2:51 p.m., 2 miles from town. They were walking down the dirt road in a very casual diamond formation around Tazuna only a experienced shinobi would recognize as being a formation. Anko was 4 feet in front of him, Tenten close on his left, Hinata about a foot away on his right, Naruto 2 feet behind him. All were walking casually and chatting about nothing in particular. Naruto reached up and casually scratched his head with his right hand, but pressed the talk button on his hidden communicator. You saw the puddle, Anko-sensei? It hasn't rained in at least a week. Naruto whispered and lowered his hand. A moment later he saw Anko subtly nod. Naruto focused his chakra into his senses. Found him. Naruto thought. Hold up a sec. I have make stop. Naruto said. Then when they turned to look at him, he subtly mouthed ambush to Tenten and Hinata to alert them. Then ran into the woods out of sight. Byakugan, Hinata subtly whispered to herself and the veins around her eyes bulged. A moment later a masked shinobi flew out of the woods near where Naruto entered and slammed into a tree. Before he could fall, almost 60 kunai pinned him to the tree by his clothes from his collar to his wrists and ankles. A moment later a short brunette with her hair in buns had a kunai pressed to his throat. You even twitch a finger and your head comes off, Tenten said coldly and pressed the super sharp edge of her kunai firmly into his neck, which made small cuts. To call any of Tenten's edged weapons razor sharp would be a personal insult to her honor. Hinata was in her Juken stance in front of Tazuna. Don't move. I'll protect you, Hinata said confidently. She was thankful Naruto had taught her to be fearless, as well as Anko, especially in the short time Anko had been their sensei. She knew the old her would have frozen up from fear. Anko stood alert and ready, but didn't act. She then watched an identical shinobi to the first fly out into view and slam into anther tree and collapse to the ground. Naruto leapt out into view over the road and drove a devastating punch into the back of the man's head as he began to rise, obviously knocking him out. Hell, she knew that punch would put her out cold. Anko then saw the bladed gauntlet on the men's arms and snarled as she recognized them. She immediately stormed to Tazuna and grabbed his collar. Those are the Demon Brothers, C-rank Chunin assassins. Who's after you? And don't give me any bullshit about bandits. They're in the bingo book. Tazuna swallowed nervously and began to sweat. Get down, Anko yelled and yanked Tazuna down with her as a huge sword fly overhead and buried in a tree. She sprang back up to her feet and flinched. Oh fuck! Zabuza Momochi, Demon of the Mist. Standing on the sword still buried in the side of the tree was the 6'6" heavily muscled man in elbow-length gray gloves, gray shinobi sandal, black pants and sleeveless black shirt. His face covered from his nose down by bandages. His mist-hitai-ite with a scratch through it on his forehead above his left eye. He stepped off his sword, yanked it from the tree with ease and slung it over his right shoulder. Nice job taking them out. And you've got some nice moves too, babe. I love the shirt, shows off those great tits. Tell you what, hand over the bridge builder and I'll let you and the girls keep your heads and their virginity. I gotta tell you though, the little bitch with the kunai looks feisty. She'd give me a good fight when I raped her, Zabuza said casually. Tenten was angry, but paled in fear. She didn't know the name, but the sword he had she did recognize and knew it had one purpose, to cut people in half, and it was forged by a master. That was the blade of a killer. It's good to know I haven't been forked in, Zabuza said proudly. Protect Tazuna, Anko commanded and pulled several kunai. Forget it, asshole. You want him, you'll have to go through me first. You might be stronger than me, but I won't go down easy. I still want to kill the son of a bitch, but I was personally trained by Orochimaru. You don't scare me, Anko said with no fear. Zabuza's eyebrows went up noticeably. Ah, you must be Anko Mitarashi. I've heard about you. You're supposed to be a pretty tough bitch. This will be fun, Zabuza said as he lifted his sword off his shoulder. Naruto, protect Tazuna. Get everyone out of here. Now, Anko commanded. She'd felt his chakra start to rise, but didn't want him to lose control if she lost. Naruto clenched his jaw and hands around the kunai he held. He wanted to argue, but knew his priority was to protect Tazuna. Zabuza laughed. Tell you what, watching that little fight, you having the guts to face me alone. And I haven't seen great tits like yours in months. I'll cut you a break. I already know where you're going, so I'll let you go for today, but next time I'll kill ya, Zabuza said and vanished. Hinata? Anko asked. Already active, Hinata looked around with her Byakugan as far as she could. He's gone, Anko-sensei. But he wasn't alone. Someone else was hidden in a tree near him. Tazuna saw the still angry Anko turn to him. I know and I'm sorry I lied. But we couldn't afford an A-rank mission. Come to my house and I'll explain everything. I promise. Just please don't abandon me. If you leave, I'm dead and so is Wave. Country. August 12th, 7:38 a.m. The road. He'd been 10 minutes from the bridge when it happened. Hinata was guarding Tazuna. Tenten was fighting Zabuza's partner and currently trapped in a dome of ice mirrors and so far holding her own. But Haku was incredibly fast. Even Tenten was having trouble hitting the masked Nin. Even worse for him though, Anko was in a very heated battle against Zabuza. He knew Anko was going all out just to match Zabuza, who he could tell wasn't. What was he doing? He'd had to intercept a water clone of Zabuza before it could kill Tazuna and possibly Hinata, during which Tenten was locked in Haku's ice mirror prison. He watched Tenten and Anko closely, hoping nothing bad happened. But it did. Zabuza hit Anko with a massive water dragon that slammed her into a tree. It was obvious to him she had broken ribs. Her right arm was useless and her right leg was probably fractured. Maybe broken. Her scream told him everything he needed to know. She was in serious trouble if she screamed. Zabuza was walking to the stunned Anko sword ready. As he got close, he raised it to strike. Zabuza suddenly pivoted in time to dodge or block a massive barrage of kunai and shuriken. He looked at the attacker and saw the blonde kid standing there, for obviously blank scrolls on the ground around him, and putting off a massive amount chakra. Damn. Someone's been hiding their power. Red chakra. Oh shit, he's a fucking Jinchuriki. Zabuza said to no one, then rushed him at incredible speed. Feeling Kyuubi's chakra rushing through him, Naruto knew he wasn't supposed to call on it. But at the moment he didn't care. He'd be damned if he was going to let his friend and sensei get killed. He ducked a head swing, then jumped the back swing that an instant later would have cut him in half and threw a kick at Zabuza's head that was dodged. I will not let you kill my sensei, Naruto/Kyuubi said as a chakra cloak formed around him. If he's just an animal, I can handle 3 or 4 tails and still kill him, but if he has full control, I could handle 1. I have a slim chance against 2. I just wish I knew which demon he had. It'd help if I knew which one I was dealing with. Zabuza thought. Let's change the field. Zabuza said and flashed through several hand signs. Hidden mist jutsu. Zabuza said, and within seconds everything within 50 yards was covered in a thick chakra-laced fog. Naruto just smiled, inhaled deeply through his nose. 2 red chakra tails formed behind him and an instant later landed a devastating punch to Zabuza's stomach that folded him in half, dropped him to his knees and made him drop his sword. Naruto quickly picked it up with his right clawed hand. His left grabbed Zabuza's hair and raised his head as he raised the sword to kill Zabuza with his own weapon. Naruto's face suddenly changed from anger to slight confusion as he sniffed the air. You smell wrong, Naruto said, then drove half the massive blade into the ground and ripped open the top section of Zabuza's shirt high on his chest. Left side. A seal. Zabuza yelled and drove a barrage of powerful punches at Naruto's stomach and crotch. All were blocked by the chakra cloak. Fuck. Just kill me already, damn it. Zabuza yelled, apparently in rage. I will. But first I will know what you're hiding. It's a powerful seal, but no match for Kyuubi no Kitsune, Kyuubi said in a calm but powerful voice, temporarily in charge with Naruto's permission. Zabuza's eyes opened wide. Kyuubi? I guess I am going to hell. Unless, Zabuza thought. Wait, if we surrender and swear our eternal loyalty to you, will you spare us? Zabuza said quickly but clearly. Haku leapt from an ice mirror that had suddenly appeared near them. Don't kill Zabuza-sama, Haku yelled in a feminine voice, and was immediately blasted away by red chakra. Kyuubi released a pulse of chakra that dispersed the mist. He can't. You're a missing Nin. The hunter Nins would follow you to Konoha. You aren't worth the trouble you'd cause us to shelter you, Anko said between gasps. Kill him. They're after Zabuza, Momochi, and Haku. Zabuza said, did several one-handed signs and touched the exposed seal. Release, Zabuza said with a smile. Then transformed, but it wasn't a transformation jutsu or jinjutsu, it was a physical transformation. As Anko watched, her eyes just opened wider and wider in total shock, until it was finished. You can't be. Every record on you says that I'm a man. Long story, a seal master put this on me when I was 5. Nobody knows except Haku, who's also a girl, Zabuza said. August 24th, 11:23 a.m. Konoha, Hokage Tower. Once we were off the Uzumaki Bridge and out of sight, it was an easy 2-day run back to Konoha. Stop smiling like that, Naruto-kun. This is a mission debriefing, not a party. Anko said sternly, but just couldn't keep the big grin off her own face. Sarutobi just sat behind his desk for several minutes, outwardly calm but inside totally shocked. I sent them on an easy C-rank escort mission that turned into an A-rank mission. Naruto beat 2 high C-rank assassins that are now dead. They fought Zabuza Momochi, who almost killed Anko but was not only beaten by Naruto, brought her to our side and officially killed Zazuba and her partner Haku. Their sword and mask left as a memorial in Wave. Killed the shipping tycoon Gato, who was behind everything in Wave. And now I have to decide what to do with the woman and girl that used to be Zabuza and Haku. I guess Naruto should officially get credit for killing them and the bounty on Zabuza. Sarutobi thought, took a puff on his pipe and let it out with a long sigh as he looked over the unregistered snow Nin formerly called Haku and the woman that was the A-ranked missing mist Nin Zabuza Momochi. The girl is tall for 16, small chest and very thin, but according to their report she's incredibly fast, an expert with senbon and healing herbs, and has a Kekiigenkai for ice. But she is from snow, so that's not unexpected, though I thought most of them were killed. And then there's Zabuza. She needs a new name. Kami, is she big? Looks about 6'5", 6'6", very muscular for a woman, obviously very powerful as she was one of the 7 swordmen of Mist. But still beautiful. Short black hair. Looks like Naruto's long legs. And large breasts, maybe double F cup. I better warn Jiraiya about her before he does something. I think she'd react like Tsunade did, but she might actually kill him. Or worse. Sarutobi thought. His SLHLY perverted thoughts didn't show on his face. Anko, report to the hospital at once for proper treatment. Sarutobi said calmly. Then his face turned very serious as he looked at Haku, Zabuza, and then Naruto. I should send them to Ibiki for interrogation, and you know that, Naruto. But because of your special skills, I'm putting them in your custody for now. Both of you will follow Naruto's orders and fill out some paperwork I'll have sent to him. You will be model citizens, and if you prove your loyalty you will become Leaf Kunoichi. But the first time you attack someone without very good reason, or we even suspect betrayal by either of you, Naruto, you will kill both of them, is that clear? Sarutobi said in a very serious, almost dead voice. Naruto, Zabuza, and Haku all flinched. Hi, Hokage-sama. Naruto said almost sadly. He didn't like it, but he couldn't argue. You have my word, Hokage-sama. We have sworn our eternal servitude and loyalty to Naruto, and make the same promise to serve Konoha faithfully, and if needed die to protect it. As you know, Naruto is a special kid. Even before his friend showed up, I knew there was something special about him the moment I saw him in action. I didn't want to admit it myself at first, but I knew I wasn't going to beat him. I've been dodging Hunter Nins most of my life, the last 5 years with Haku. But that's no life for a kid, so when I saw my chance to finally kill Zabuza Momochi, I took it. It was a major blow to my pride to do it, but submitting to that brat as my true self was the only way to stay alive. I don't fear death, but I've come to think of Haku as my daughter and couldn't let her die so young. Zabuza said and gave Sarutobi a full, formal bow of submission, and saw the smiling Haku do the same a moment later. Sarutobi nodded and smiled subtly. Dismissed. Naruto nodded and smiled. Sorry, Anko-sensei. Carry her to the hospital. Hey brat, don't. Anko said before she was scooped up. I meant what I said when we first met, so enjoy the ride, baby. Zabuza said with a big smile, then leapt out the open window to the nearest roof and raced across them towards the hospital. I'll follow them. Ten Haku. Follow Hinata-chan to the hospital. Naruto said, then jumped out the window. The 3 kunoichi just giggled a moment, nodded to Sarutobi and ran out of the room. The door quickly but quietly closed behind them by Haku. Sarutobi chuckled and pulled a little orange book out of his desk drawer. How does he do it? I'm gonna figure how he can wrap any female, civilian, or kunoichi around his finger like that. I just hope I live long enough to see him make Hokage. Maybe he'll send a couple my way. Sarutobi said with a perverted smile and opened his latest, Itchy Paradise, to the bookmark. Chapter 07, Chunin Exams. July 15th, 8:14 a.m., near the park. A 9-year-old boy ran through the street, turned a corner and moments later crashed into someone and fell on his butt. "Watch where you're going, you little shit," he said, reached down and lifted the boy off his feet by his collar. He looked at the Hittite on the man's head. He wore a black suit that covered everything but his face, which was painted, and had a big bundle on his back. "You're from Suna, here for the Chunin exams. And my name is Konohamaru Sarutobi, grandson of the Hokage, so you better put me down. Catface." Kankuro smirked, amused. "Oh really? Big deal shitstain. I'm the son of the Kazekage, so I don't care. Either apologize for running into me or I'll beat you bloody." A kunai suddenly passed between them, cutting Konohamaru's shirt, which ripped and dropped him to his feet. A moment later he was behind his friend. "I don't care if you're the Kazekage. You threaten a kid again, especially one of my friends, and I'll beat you bloody," Naruto said fiercely, then ruffled Konohamaru's hair. "You okay?" "I'm fine, boss. I was gonna apologize until he threatened me. Now I'm not going to." "Catface," Konohamaru said. "It's war paint, you little," Kankuro almost yelled. "Leave the kid alone, Catface." A well-built blonde girl with 4 short ponytails interrupted with an amused smirk. "Oh come on, Temari, he ran into me," Kankuro said, exasperated. "I don't care, Kankuro. You beat up a little kid or get in a fight before the exams and get us kicked out. And you can tell him why, because I won't," Temari said calmly but firmly. "Besides, the blonde kid and his little girlfriends don't look like they're even worth the effort," Temari said, sounding almost bored. "Though that blonde kid is damn cute. Makes my nipples hard just looking at him. I wonder if he has a girlfriend?" "No. Remember why you're here, Temari. A real shame though. I hope he survives." Temari thought the last part sadly. "Stop playing around or I'll kill you both," a dead voice said from above them. Everyone turned to see a red-haired boy in brown robes, black ringed eyes, the kanji for love on his forehead in red, and a huge gourd on his back. He was standing on a limb 15 feet up in a tree by the street, his arms crossed over his chest. Naruto saw the black-clad boy called Kankuro and the blonde girl he'd called Temari look at the new boy and cringe in terror. Naruto went to full alert when he saw him. Something about the redhead bothered him, but was very familiar. Naruto saw him do a sand shushin from the tree to the street next to the other two, who stepped back in fear. He could tell they were both strong. But the redhead was different. He hit it well but was far stronger than he should be. He could feel it. "That's it. He's a Jinchuriki like me. Kyuubi. Can you tell which one he has?" Naruto thought. Kyuubi tapped into Naruto's senses and enhanced them, and he studied the red-headed boy that for him was about 5 minutes, but a second in the real world. "It has to be Shikaku, the one-tailed raccoon. Want me to?" "No." Naruto interrupted. "We won't do anything unless he tries to kill someone or use Shikaku's chakra. I know that look in his eyes. I used to have it. He's never known love or even had a friend." Naruto thought. Kyuubi just nodded and lay down in his cage. "Get out of here." "And you," Naruto said and pointed to Gaara, no fear on his face. "If you hurt any of my friends, I'll kill you," Naruto said seriously. Temari and Kankuro were about to laugh at the blonde kid, then saw the look on his face. He seemed to know what Gaara was. They'd seen the look on hundreds of people in Suna, but unlike them, this kid wasn't scared even a little. Gaara raised his eyebrows slightly, and a very subtle smirk appeared on his lips. "We will meet again, and I will kill you," Gaara said in a dead voice, turned and walked Awa. Temari and Kankuro followed him. "That kid with the red hair is really scary," Konohamaru said, obviously intimidated. Hinata and Tenten nodded in agreement. Naruto waved over Moegi and Udon from where they were hiding. "You two okay?" Naruto asked, then smiled when they nodded. "Come on, let's go get some breakfast. You three look hungry and we'll need our energy for the exams. We don't have to be there until 11, so where do you guys want to eat?" "I'm buying," Naruto said to the Konohamaru Corps with a big smile. 11:06 a.m. Exam building, floor 2. Naruto, Hinata, and Tenten behind him to either side, walked up behind his friends. "Hey Sasuke team, Bull, Chichi-chan." Watching the show, Naruto said, obviously amused. Almost 30 feet away, about a dozen genin, some from Konoha, were trying to get past a pair of Chunin guards in front of a door disguised by a weak genjutsu to look like the third-floor door they had to find. I stink at genjutsu and even I saw through it. Don't they realize this is the second floor? And people think I'm thick-headed, Bull said in his deep voice and chuckled. How did those bakas ever make genin anyway? If this is the competition, our only challenge is you three and my brother's team. Sasuke said, both amused and disappointed. Naruto got serious. Have you guys met the Suna team yet? Blonde girl with 4 ponytails and what looks like a giant fan on her back. A guy in all black with a big bundle on his back and a redhead with a big gourd on his back. Be careful of the redhead, he's a lot stronger than he looks. If you see our friends, tell them to avoid him at all costs. We met him earlier. He almost killed his teammates for no reason. I can't tell you why. Just please trust me and do what I ask, Naruto said quietly but very seriously. Sasuke looked at Naruto. He knew Naruto had a lot of quirks, but one of the things he never joked about was his friend's safety. All right, but if he's that dangerous, shouldn't you tell someone? If they make it to the matches, I will. Besides, we won't see our sensei until then anyway, so if they are up to smithing, it's better to just watch for now and gather more info on them. Sasuke thought a moment, then nodded. Good point, always know your enemy. Come on, let's get upstairs. We've wasted enough time here anyway, Sasuke said, turned and headed for the stairs. Naruto nodded to his teammates and followed Team 6. I just know in the next couple days I'll have to tell Sasuke and the others that don't know about you, furball. They're ready. I just wish I'd done it sooner, Naruto thought. Kyuubi just laughed. He desperately wanted to tell Naruto I told you so, but held it in. He knew something big was going to happen soon, and this wasn't the time to have a fight with Naruto. 12:14 p.m. Floor 3, Exam Room 34. Naruto sat calmly in his seat. Ibiki had just finished his big speech about the rules, and that they'd only have 40 minutes, then he'd give them the 10th question. Only the Jounin and Hokage knew that Naruto knew Ibiki as well as the rest of them and been trained by him in mental discipline and a few special jutsu he used. He had to use a lot of willpower to keep from laughing when Ibiki raised his bandana to show his heavily scarred head. He heard many of the genin's shocked reactions, even some of his friends. He didn't want to spoil Ibiki's fun. The man truly loved to scare the shit of people. Of course, being the head ANBU interrogation, it was no surprise he was a sadistic bastard. Anko either, as he trained her as well to be one of his top interrogators, though she hadn't actually done that in years. There weren't many people in Konoha Anko didn't scare as much as Ibiki did. Of course, if he told everyone that Ibiki was a really nice guy when you got to know him, or that Anko was a big submissive pussy if you approached her the right way, he'd ruin their carefully crafted images. After she heard Ibiki say begin, Hinata turned over her paper and saw the 9 questions on it were way above their level. Most genin had no chance of answering any of these questions correctly. Even she could only answer 3, maybe 4. She was wondering how they were supposed to pass this test when she suddenly felt something in her jacket just above her full breasts. She unzipped her jacket 2 inches, waved it like she was hot, glanced down into the space between her jacket and shirt, and saw a tiny blue toad look up at her with a smile. Don't say anything, Hinata-sama. Naruto-sama sent me to help you. The tiny toad whispered so only Hinata could hear him. Naruto-sama sent one of us to Tenten-sama as well. He said we're supposed to cheat to pass this test, just not get caught. There are several Chunin here with completed tests for you to copy off. One is 1 row down, between you and Naruto-sama. Do you see him? The tiny male toad whispered. Hinata glanced at the student in front and to her left and almost gasped. His test was filled out with the answers. She nodded subtly. Copy from him and wait for time to run out. If you want to pass a message to Naruto-sama or Tenten-sama, tell me. I'll pass it on to the others, they'll translate and relay it to them. Oh! Naruto-sama wants me to tell you to stop calling your breasts fat and saggy. They're full and only sag a little because they're heavy. He loves his sweet melon girl and can't wait until she's ripe and ready to pick. It whispered, almost embarrassed. Hinata looked down at the table and blushed bright red at Naruto's nickname for her. It took her a few moments to suppress her blush, but when she did, she raised her head and started to copy answers. Please tell Naruto-kun thank you. But he'll have to wait 2 years to harvest them. Hinata whispered and blushed again. but just for a moment. Soon after she heard a quiet chuckle and turned to see Naruto blushing subtly. Tenten saw Hinata and Naruto acting a little silly and smirked. She knew basically what was going on. "Sorry, I don't have much for you to sit on," Tenten whispered to the tiny white toad on her chest beneath her shirt, above her sports bra. She actually liked how the tiny toad felt sitting on her chest. "From my view, your chest is gigantic. They look like mountains to me," it whispered. Tenten blushed slightly. "He called my little sea cups gigantic." Like mountains, Tenten squealed happily to herself. In the year since she graduated, she'd filled out and finally felt like a real kunoichi. All her girlfriends had. She'd even come out to them and was happy they didn't think or act differently towards her. She'd even been on a couple sleepovers. The last was her favorite, though. She'd finally convinced Hinata to go. She could still see their faces when Hinata finally took off her jacket. Hinata had grown the least, only 1 cup size, but what she had dwarfed them and their moms. She'd found their reactions hilarious. Especially Ino, who thought her D-cups were the biggest of all her friends. 12:50 p.m. "Now for your FNAL question," Ibiki said and told them about the pass or fail conditions of the final question. Naruto almost smirked. During Ibiki's explanation, he'd figured out the real reason for the final question. The conditions he gave made it obvious to him. "Tell Hinata-chan and Tenten-chan not to worry. Just sit and wait, Gamachibi," Naruto whispered to the tiny orange toad in his jacket, who croaked the message to the others at a frequency only they could hear. Naruto glanced around, saw their subtle nods, then leaned back in his chair, put his feet up and his hands behind his head. He looked almost bored. Naruto's friends saw him, then the rest of Team 7 relax, figured Naruto knew what he was doing since he was never wrong about anything, and knew he wouldn't fail, so they did the same. Sasuke chuckled quietly when several teams folded under the pressure and quit. He watched a total of 5 teams finally quit, and noticed the team from the New Sound Village and the one from Suna that Naruto had warned him about didn't quit. "That it? Anyone else?" Ibiki said and waited a moment. "Then it's my pleasure to tell everyone that you passed," Ibiki said and smiled. "That's it, we don't leave and we pass? There's no 10th question?" Kiba asked. When he saw Ibiki shake his head no, he face planted on the desk. Fuki giggled loudly at her teammates' antics and covered her mouth with both hands. At that moment a spear crashed through the window, stuck in the far wall, and a banner unrolled from the end that said, "Anko Mitarashi." Right after it did, Anko leapt in through the now open window, stood proudly in front of Ibiki's desk with her crazy bitch face. "I'm Anko Mitarashi, you maggots, proctor of the 2nd exam. So pick up your shit and get out. Someone will show you where to go. Move it," Anko yelled in a scary voice. She watched everyone leave the room. The Leaf Genin gave her a subtle smirk as they passed. They'd seen the real her. Her team was last. She made sure the others were clear, then smiled warmly at Naruto. "Did you have fun, Anko?" Naruto said with a playful smile. "You know I did, brat. Now get out of here before you ruin my image," Anko said and smirked. Naruto glanced at Hinata and Tenten, reached up inside Anko's trench coat, grabbed her right breast through her mesh shirt, pulled her down and gave her a quick kiss on the lips. "Hi, Anko-sensei." A smirking Naruto turned and walked out with his teammates, who were giggling quietly. A red-faced Anko turned to Ibiki as she pulled a kunai. "Not one word, Ibiki. Don't you even fucking smirk, or so help me, I'll give you a scar where it won't show. So 38 passed, huh? You're slipping, but the next exam will thin him out." He didn't show it, but Ibiki was laughing on the inside at what Naruto had done to her. Something he knew Anko would kill anyone else for doing. "Shouldn't you be on your way already, Anko?" Ibiki said calmly and gave Anko a small smirk. A moment later a kunai flew past his head and stuck in the wall behind him. He didn't even flinch. "You seem tense, Anko. You need to work off that stress with a good bar fight. Or maybe just get laid," Ibiki said casually. Anko took a quick deep breath and sighed. Understatement of the year. "But during the exams I can't afford to do either of those, especially the second one. I don't do that anymore, and you know why. You're really going to wait 2 more years for him. I'm proud of you, Anko," Ibiki said seriously. "Thanks, Ibiki-san," Anko said, smiled and vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. Ibiki smiled, Anko hadn't called him that since she was his apprentice. Outside. Naruto-kun, did you have to do that to Anko-chan? I know she's special to you, and I don't mind when we're alone. But, Hinata said quietly. I know, Hinata-chan. Naruto interrupted politely. Didn't you notice that Ibiki wasn't surprised I did that to Anko-chan? Naruto said quietly. Hinata stopped and thought a moment. Then her eyes opened wider. He knows already. So he's one of your... Naruto quickly put a finger on Hinata's lips to stop her and smiled. That's one of those secrets I can't tell you, but you're right that he is one of the people that's trained me. Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan, you know I hate keeping things from you, but I can't tell you everything yet. I told you about my special friend, Naruto said and glanced down at his stomach so they knew he meant Kyuubi. For now that'll have to be enough. Can you wait until we're married, Hinata-chan? Then I can tell you, Tenten-chan, and the rest of our friends everything. Hi. I'll always wait for you, Naruto-kun, Hinata said happily. Me too, Naruto-kun, Tenten said with a smile. Naruto hugged them both at once. That's why you're my best girls, Naruto said happily and gave them both a quick kiss on the cheek. Come on, if we're late for the next exam Anko will be mad, Naruto said and smirked. Outside training ground 44. Listen up maggots because I'm only gonna say this once. Welcome to training ground 44. Or as we like to call it, the Forest of Death. Before you go in there are a few rules. First, you'll have to sign consent forms releasing Konoha of all responsibility should you happen to die. Each team will be given either an Earth Scroll or Heaven Scroll. You can't complete this exam without both scrolls. How you get a scroll you need from another team is up to you, I don't fucking care. However, you are not to open either scroll until you reach the tower. If you do, we'll know and your team will be disqualified. Your goal is to reach the tower at the center within 5 days. You must get there in the allotted time with both scrolls and all members of your team must be alive. Lose even one member and you're disqualified. One more thing. That isn't just a clever name. There are giant animals, insects, killer plants, and dozens of other things living in there that would happy kill and eat you. So keep your eyes open at all times and stay alert. Not that I care, but I have to tell you that. Now get your asses over there, sign the consent forms, then pick up a scroll and head to the gate you're assigned. Move it, maggots! Anko yelled fiercely and glared at them. I love this job. Sorry I can't help you, Naruto-kun, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan, but I've trained you as best I can in the year since I became your sensei. I hope it was enough. Protect your friends for me, Naruto-kun. You guys are all my family and I don't want to lose any of you, Anko thought. Naruto led his team to the first booth, signed their forms, then Naruto picked up the Earth Scroll and headed to Gate 13 where Teams 6 and 10 were already waiting. Just as they got to the gate, a rock team joined them. Hey guys, Naruto said with a smile, then turned to the rock team. Good luck, Naruto said to them, being nice. We don't need luck, Squirt, but you and the other leaf wimps will need all you can get with little pussies like them around. Especially that little bimbo, the biggest one said and then pointed to the busty little redhead directly in front of him. Chi-Chi cowered slightly and sniffled as her eyes teared up. Then she turned away from the big rock Nin. You shouldn't have said that, Sasuke said with a big sadistic smile. He'd interrupted Naruto before he acted. Why not, you gonna do smething about it? Pretty boy, the big rock Nin said with a scowl. Not me. Him, Sasuke said and pointed over his shoulder with his right thumb. The big rock Nin with his two teammates looked past the pretty boy and didn't see anyone. Then they heard a very deep growl, and a very heavily muscled bald kid stood up behind the girl and pretty boy. He was over 6 feet tall and very angry. Bull stepped past Sasuke and Chi-Chi and got chest to face with the smaller rock Nin that just insulted his village, his friends, and worst of all his teammate Chi-Chi. I'm only gonna ask once. Apologize to my friends or you won't even make it past the gate. The small remaining crowd of genin stopped and watched, as did Anko and few others there. Oh fuck! They must have insulted Chi-Chi. That's the only thing that makes him that mad, Anko thought. Are you going to stop it? Asuma asked quietly from behind Anko. Anko just smiled sadistically. And miss a good fight? Besides, they've signed the consent forms. It doesn't specify they have to be inside the forest. It takes effect the moment they sign it, and you know that. Asuma sighed. Forgot who I was talking to. A moment later there was a loud crack, a crash, then 2 more crashes. Anko jumped off the stage and walked over to the rubble by the end of the stage where a large crater now was. She looked down and saw the big rock Neen sprawled out, a fist-like dent on what used to be a face. Beside him were what was left of his teammates, partially buried in the ground. She dropped in, checked for pulses and sighed. Are they okay? Naruto yelled from gate 13 almost 30 feet away. Which scroll do you have? Anko yelled. Earth. Sasuke yelled back. He didn't care if everyone knew, wanted them to try at and take his Earth scroll. How ironic. They had the Heaven scroll, which is where they are now. Anko yelled back, picked it up and threw it to Sasuke, who caught it. Congratulations, you guys got the first set of scrolls. Everyone hurry up and get your scrolls. And if you're smart, you'll avoid the big guy. Everyone quickly rushed to get their scroll and to their gate. A grass team was sent to gate 13. They didn't say a word to anyone, just gave a friendly nod. Begin, Anko yelled. Then the huge gates opened slightly inward so they could be pushed open and let everyone in. Chapter 08, The Forest of Death. 12:10 p.m., Forest of Death. Naruto watched Hinata knock out her opponent, the last grass Neen from their gate, with a Juken strike to the neck. Good work, Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan. Hated to do this to them so soon, but they had the Heaven Scroll we needed, and they'll be able to walk out of here. Well, if something doesn't eat them while they're unconscious. Naruto said, then laughed briefly and scanned the area. Since no one is watching, how about we set a new record for finishing this exam? Naruto said with a big foxy grin. Hinata traded smiles with Tenten. Hi, sounds fun, Naruto-kun. We rarely get to cut loose. Minutes later they were miles away, bounding from branch to branch at blinding speed. When Naruto signaled a stop, they landed next to him on the huge branch. Why'd you stop, Naruto-kun? Is something wrong? Tenten said as she put a hand on the weapon pouch on her right hip. Her only one as far as anyone could tell. Hi, we aren't alone. Naruto said seriously as he pulled the short from under his shirt on his back and held it near his chest in his right hand. Tenten gasped quietly. That was a gift from Izara, formerly Zabuza Momochi, for letting her and her daughter Seka, formerly Haku, live at his new house in the shinobi-only residential section of town. He bought with part of the bounty he got from Mist. Hinata had a similar reaction. Naruto had told her he'd only use it in a serious battle or... Hinata gasped quietly. Naruto-kun is... he here? Hinata asked nervously. When she saw Naruto nod, Tenten swallowed nervously. There was only one person they referred to as he. Anko's former sensei Orochimaru. Hinata-chan, Tenten-chan, stay hidden and no matter what, don't get involved. He's way out of your league and I don't want either of you hurt. Naruto said seriously but with love, leaned to the side and gave Hinata then Tenten a quick kiss. Always remember that I love you both. And if anything happens, take care of Anko-chan for me. Naruto said calmly, but with a hint of sadness. Then before either could react he stood, ran down the side of the massive tree and in seconds was out of sight. Tenten grabbed Hinata's shoulder when she moved to follow him. Don't go, Hinata-chan, you know he's right. Naruto-kun has to do this alone. We'd just get in the way. Tenten said as her eyes teared up slightly. Besides, we know how strong he really is, especially with Kai-sen helping him. Tenten said and smiled. Hinata pushed down her emotions and smiled at Tenten. Hi, thank you, Tenten-chan. But if anything happened to him before I even got to, I'd just die. Hinata-chan, do you think there's anything that could stop Naruto-kun from marrying you? Tenten asked seriously. Hinata thought a moment, then smiled broadly. No, Naruto-kun would move heaven and earth to be with me. 200 feet below, on the ground. Naruto stood ready, a kunai in his left hand, his short sword with the slightly green-tinted blade he'd named Lucky Strike in his right hand. Come on out, you snake bastard, and face me. Or are you afraid? Naruto almost roared, just enough of Kyuubi's chakra released to form a red chakra tail behind him. His fingers and toes were clawed, his canines and whisker marks more pronounced, and his eyes were red with vertical slit pupils. Just then Orochimaru melted out of a nearby tree. "Coo coo coo! Aren't you the impatient one? I didn't even get to play with your friends yet. Or the lovely things above us, they would be most entertaining," Orochimaru said with a happy, sadistic grin. Naruto's chakra spiked and a second chakra tail formed. "You leave them alone. I won't warn you a second time," Naruto said in a cold, dead demonic voice and released enough ki to freeze a high-level jounin in their tracks. Orochimaru just smiled. "Coo coo coo! You were quite interesting. This will be much more entertaining than last time. How is my old apprentice anyway? I've missed her," Orochimaru said calmly, the last line with a sickeningly sweet tone. A third red chakra tail formed behind Naruto as he grinned very darkly. "Now I'm going to kill you," Naruto said calmly. Orochimaru laughed. "Do you think you can kill me with only 3 tai?" Orochimaru said, then suddenly dodged to his left. His body bent at an impossible angle to avoid a slash that nearly took his head off. He twisted around, hissed, and grabbed the right side of his neck that now had a 1/4-inch deep cut in it. "You've improved. I'll have to take you seriously, it seems," he said, then flashed through a series of hand signs, took a deep breath, blew out a stram of fire that looked like a dragon. Naruto smiled and stood his ground. "Foolish boy," Orochimaru said as it hit with a huge explosion of fire and smoke. A few seconds later it cleared and Naruto stood there with an amused smirk on his face. "Hellfire Rasengan," Orochimaru heard from behind him as a burning pain erupted in his chest. A moment later red flames burned through his chest and spread throughout his body. A look of total disbelief on his face as he knew he was dead. "This is for Anko," the 5-tailed Naruto said a moment before his sword went through Orochimaru's neck and severed his head. Naruto flashed through a long series of hand signs, pointed his right palm at the severed head, and a blue fireball shot out and struck it, engulfing it in blue flames for several seconds before it dispelled. He picked up the still intact head and watched the body burn to nothing. The only thing left was the still flawless sword known as Grass Cutter. He looked at the special demon seal now on Orochimaru's forehead and smiled as he returned to normal. "Your head may be intact, but only Kami could bring your sick ass back, and I seriously doubt she will." "Burn in hell, bastard," Naruto said, took a blank scroll from his pocket, opened it on the ground, sat the head next to the sword, did several hand signs and touched the scroll. "Seal," Naruto said. The head and sword vanished in a puff of smoke and Teo Kanji appeared on the scroll. Naruto smiled, rolled it up and put it back in his pocket. Up in the tree Hinata sat nervously next to Tenten. "Do you think he won, Tenten-chan?" Hinata said, a little worried. "Of course I won, he never had a chance," Naruto said from behind them. Hinata and Tenten jumped up and spun around, saw a smiling, unhurt Naruto and both glomped him hard. Naruto caught them, spun and landed on his back on the branch instead of falling off it. He waited a minute while they covered his face with kisses. "As much fun as this is having you two lay on me, we should get going," Naruto said with a huge smile. Hinata pouted very cutely. "Hi, Minasama." Tenten giggled and stood up. "Minasama. Very funny, Hinata-chan," Naruto said dryly and stuck out his tongue at her. "You're lucky you're so cute." Hinata just smiled cutely. "Hi. I want to make sure all our friends pass," Naruto said and made the cross-finger sign. "Multi-shadow clone jutsu," Naruto said, and 30 shadow clones appeared on the branches around them, nodded and all leapt off in different directions. "Now let's go," Naruto said, gave a short sigh, smirked, kissed Hinata, turned and leapt off the branch to the next tree, Hinata and Tenten close behind giggling quietly. 12:59 p.m. Forest of Death Tower. Naruto, Hinata to his right, Tenten to his left, kneeled on the stone floor in front of the giant wall scroll and opened both scrolls. When they started to smoke, he stepped back. Then a moment later there was a quiet poof. Then the smoke cleared and revealed Irika with a huge smile on his face. "You just set a new record for this exam. 59 minutes. I'm very proud of all of you," Irika said happily, but it didn't last when he saw Naruto's face. "What happened?" His face calm. Naruto stepped up to his former teacher, took a scroll from his pocket, and handed it to him. Take this to Sarutobi-sama. Give it to him and have him open it. Anko should be there when he does. Naruto said calmly, stepped back and gave Irika a full bow, joined by Hinata and Tenten. Thanks, Irika-sensei. Join me for ramen at Ichiraku's after the exams. Irika took the scroll, smiled proudly when he bowed to him. Hi, go get a room and relax. There's food, baths, anything you want on the first 4 floors. Irika said, nodded and vanished in a swirl of wind and leaves. Somewhere in the forest of death. I said shut up. Orochimaru-sama put me in charge because unlike you two I can stay calm and not mess everything up by losing my temper. We're gonna find that blonde kid. But until we do we have to play along, and that means getting the other scroll. They have the heaven scroll we need. So unless you want to tell Orochimaru-sama why we failed. She said and waited a moment. We'll do it, Kin. Both men said nervously. Kin smiled. Good. Besides, it'll be fun, and whatever's left of the 2 little bimbos you can have. I just don't want to hear about it. I might torture and kill them, but I am a woman. So keep that in mind, you perverts, or you'll find out what my senbon can do to your manhood. Kin said, the last part coldly, then signaled them to follow her out into the clearing. Hidden in a nearby tree, a Naruto clone listened to the 3-sound nin. If they think Sakura-chan and Ino-chan are weak, they're in for a big surprise, and if I know Shikamaru, he's already set up a few. Just then there was a big crash, followed immediately by a crunching thuds and screams. The Naruto clone looked at the edge of the clearing where Kin now stood alone and fairly shocked. Her 2 male teammates had stopped the first trap. But they didn't know Shikamaru. No one planned traps like he did. One of his backups had killed both of the male sound nin. He watched Kin take on Ino and Sakura. She'd done pretty well until she made a crack about Sakura's forehead. Naruto winced in fear. He knew Sakura very well, and unless you were a close friend, there were 2 things you never did. You never made fun of her small breasts, and if you ever wanted to have kids one day, you never, ever made fun of her forehead. The second Kin had said it. He saw Ino pale and start to back up. Shikamaru shook his head, and he just made out what his lazy friend said. You just made the worst mistake of your life, lady, Shikamaru said calmly. Kin saw the pink-haired girl's face lock up with anger before she started walking towards her with her fists clenched tight. Kin took out several senbon and threw them at the angry little Genin Kunoichi and struck several points that should put her on the ground screaming. And gasped when she didn't even flinch. Impressed but only slightly worried, she threw several more. The girl swatted away the few aimed at her head. She took out the rest in her pouch and began throwing them, but Pinky blocked every one that would hit a fatal point with her arms, ignored the rest, and every sunbon that hit just seemed to make the girl madder. When the girl got 10 feet away, she began to panic as her taijutsu was very basic. This had never happened to her before. She'd never met anyone so young that could withstand so much pain without even flinching. She then heard 2 words that would be burned into her memory and forever strike fear in her heart. Cherry splitter. Suddenly the girl was gone, and an instant later a pain like she'd never felt before exploded between her legs. As her head went down, she saw Pinky standing there with her big fist buried in the sensitive flesh between her legs, and knew instantly that if she lived, her sex life was dead. Her guts were on fire, especially in her lower belly. She destroyed my pussy with 1 punch, was Kin's last thought before everything went black. As she woke, she realized she was in a stone room. You'd be dead if it wasn't for me, Kin, a young male voice said. Kin turned her head towards the unknown male voice and got scared when she recognized him. Naruto Uzumaki. Oh, Kami, are you going to kill me? Naruto looked at her coldly. I should for trying to kill my friends, and for what you said about Sakura-chan. But what she did will do for now as punishment. You're lucky she's also a great med nin, because I convinced her to repair most of the damage she did. Don't make me regret showing you mercy. You can't feel any pain because a friend of mine is a Hyuga. She temporarily blocked all feeling in that part of your body. On that table, there is some medication that'll do the same thing. I'm only going to make this offer once, so think before you answer, because if you refuse, then change your mind at the last second. It won't save you. I know you served Orochimaru. He's dead now. I killed him about an hour ago. Naruto said emotionlessly and got the reaction he expected from her. Shock and disbelief. If you agree to tell me what he had planned besides abducing me, I can arrange for you to join Leaf as a kunoichi. Well, you'll be a civilian for a while, but you could become a kunoichi if you behave yourself. Naruto said calmly, then gave her a small, sly smile. So do you want friends and a future? Or should I just torture the information from you and kill you? Naruto said calmly, then pulled out his short sword and looked at the blade. Kin tried to move but couldn't even wiggle a finger. Oh, Kami. This can't be happening. But it is. If he really killed Orochimaru-sama. I don't have a fucking prayer against him. If he's even twice as strong as Pinky. He could rip me apart with his bare hands. And if he chose to rape me, even if I could move. Kin thought. And Naruto-sama. Before I answer, may I ask? I know you said she healed most of the damage, but will I be able to enjoy sex? Or did Pink Sakura ruin me? I've never been hit so hard in my life. Especially not there. Naruto looked into her eyes and saw what he'd hoped for. Thanks for the training, Ibiki. Naruto thought. Hi, you will. The damage was bad, but she repaired most of it. Assuming you're still alive later, I'll have you taken to the hospital for treatment. Then you'll need somewhere to live. I can think of a few friends that'll house you, even be your friend if you're nice. You're how old? I'm 18, Naruto-sama. Kin said right away. Do you prefer men or women? Naruto asked casually. Kin was a little shocked he'd asked her that, but considering her situation. I prefer men, but I have been with a few women. Kin said, then had a thought. If you want to know, my breasts are full, firm D cups. Kin said, trying to anticipate where his questions were going. I accept your terms and humbly surrender myself to you as a servant. If you'll have me. Naruto didn't show it, but he'd expected this reaction. He'd noticed, especially in the last year, that girls, and especially women, reacted this way to him more frequently, now that he knew what it meant. If you mean it, we could be friends, and more in a few years, but if you betray me or Konoha, I'll skin you alive, bitch. Naruto said the first part, Kyuubi the last part, and changed Naruto's eyes to red as he did. Kin paled and nodded submissively. She'd been told he was a Jinchuriki, but that was her first personal contact with a demon. Naruto went to the door and opened it. A moment later, two female med-nines walked in and smiled at him as they passed, followed by Kurenai Yuhi. She agreed to tell us what she knows and defect to Leaf. Does he want to see me? Kurenai smiled. Hi, Naruto-kun. Hokage-sama is in the 5th floor office with Anko-chan. Thank you, Kurenai-chan. Don't hurt her too much. Naruto said, then gave Kurenai a quick kiss in the lips and vanished in a puff of smoke. He was a shadow clone? Kin said, amazed. Hi. So relax. If you don't resist, this genjutsu won't hurt. This is the fastest way to find out what you know. If you cooperate anyway, you don't want our head interrogator to question you. So relax and open your mind. If you do try anything, I'll wipe your personality and leave you a mindless slave. Kurenai said seriously, then started a series of hand signs as she stopped next to the table by Kin's head. Forest of Death Tower, 5th floor office. The Real Naruto knocked on the double doors and waited a moment for permission to enter. When he heard Sarutobi's voice, he took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and went in. The instant he did, he saw the old man sitting calmly behind a desk smoking his pipe, but to his right of the old man stood Anko. She had a huge smile on her face. He knew she couldn't hold in if her life depended on it, and her whole body was twitching from unbridled joy. As he walked to the chair in front of the desk to sit down, he knew it was taking every ounce of willpower. Anko had to not rip off her clothes and his and ravage him right there on the floor like the women in Jiraiya's books. He sat in the chair. You wanted to see me, old man? This is about him, I guess, Naruto said politely. Sarutobi sighed with amusement as he blew out a plume of smoke. Naruto, Anko, and two of his former students were the only people he ever let call him old man. But Naruto was the only one that did it in front of people, but he did sort of raise Naruto, who thought of him like a grandfather, so he allowed it. He even liked it a little, but he wasn't going to tell anyone that. Hi. It pains me it had to be done, and that I didn't stop him when I had the chance. But I want to thank you, Naruto, Sarutobi said solemnly. Anko, remain where you are. I understand how you're feeling, but you will remember you are a respected jounin. Do not embarrass yourself or Konoha by letting your emotions control you. Naruto, please tell me what that seal on his forehead does. I assume you put it there, Sarutobi said seriously. Anko suppressed her emotions a little, but not enough to stop herself from shaking slightly. She was so happy. Naruto nodded, then glanced at Anko and smirked. Before I do, can Anko-chan hug me? It'll help her get her emotions under control. Sarutobi thought a moment, smirked subtly and nodded. Anko ran around the desk to Naruto, who stood just in time for her to scoop him up in a monster hug and spin him around the room for a minute. When she stopped, she covered his cheeks with kisses. In her 22 years, she'd never been so happy. The pain and blinding rage she'd carried around since she was 10 years old was finally gone. Orochimaru was dead. She was free. Anko put Naruto down and yanked down the left side of her trenchcoat collar to show her bare neck. It's gone, Naruto-kun. When you killed him, his seal was broken. I'm free. Anko squealed like a little girl as she almost bounced on her toes. From now on, Anko Mitarashi is Naruto Uzumaki's most loyal bitch, and I don't care who knows, Anko declared proudly. Sarutobi sighed and shook his head. He knew she was serious and even he couldn't stop her. Anko Mitarashi, he said with authority to get Anko's attention. I'd prefer you didn't do that, but short of locking you in a cell, I can't stop you. So I'm asking you to keep your first promise to wait until Naruto and Hinata are married. As to telling the village you belong to Naruto, could you at least wait until after the Chunin exams are over? Anko looked at Naruto a moment, then pouted slightly. Hi. For you and Naruto-kun, I'll wait to tell everyone, and will keep my first promise. Thank you, Anko. Now, Naruto, I understand that you captured a sound Nin that was defeated by Sakura Haruno, and that Kurenai is interrogating her now. Before she debriefs me on what she learned, tell me about the seal. Sarutobi said calmly, but inside he was smiling. He'd heard about Sakura's special attack. As the best med Nin of her age group and the physically strongest kunoichi in that year's class, she'd combined them to create a truly devastating taijutsu attack. He knew most of the Leaf Shinobi knew about it, but few had seen her use it. Kyuubi actually placed the seal, but he told me what it does. It will prevent anyone from learning anything from his head using jutsu or any other method. It's an ancient demon seal, only Kyuubi can break it since he placed it. It will also prevent anyone from bringing him back. Not that he could anyway. Kami has his soul locked up. Even if his body was restored somehow, he'll never live again. That's the best explanation I can give. It's all way too complicated for any human to understand. That's what Kyuubi told me anyway. What you do with the sword and his head is up to you as Hokage. I already destroyed his body with a fire jutsu as I was taught to do, Naruto said. Thank you, Naruto. You're both dismissed, Sarutobi said calmly and took a puff on his pipe. After they left, he leaned back in the chair, closed his eyes and went deep into thought while he waited for Kurenai's report. Chapter 09. Win, Lose or Raw. July 21st, 7:56 a.m. Underground Arena. Naruto looked around with a smile. Of the 27 teams that started the Forest of Death, the Leaf Team 6 through 10 made it, as well as the team from Suna, one from Grass and one from Rock. He hadn't told any of his friends except Hinata and Tenten, but after Kin had told Kurenai everything she knew about the invasion, which was limited but enough to alert the Jounin to watch for, he'd been assigned to watch the team from Suna, that he now knew were the Sand siblings from what the old man told him. Naruto told him about Gaara, but to avoid tipping them off and give him a chance to help a fellow Jinchuriki instead of having to kill him, he'd been assigned to personally handle Gaara if Shikaku appeared. He glanced up at Sarutobi in his seat above the arena and saw Sarutobi give him a subtle nod. Good. They're ready. I just wish Kin knew when it was planned for, Naruto thought as he lined up for the rules he figured were coming, and probably a speech he knew the old man liked to make. Hinata looked to her right when she heard an amused chuckle. What's so funny, Naruto-kun? He's probably gonna give us a speech, Naruto said with a big smirk. After the rules were explained, Sarutobi did give a short speech. The proctor revealed and activated the board on the wall. It ran through everyone's name in the 2 slots. Rock Lee versus Kankuru. Everyone went up to the catwalk, Leaf Nin on the right, Grass and Rock on the left, the Suna team on the center left, except for Rock Lee and Kankuru who stayed in the arena. Naruto leaned on the rail to watch, Hinata to his left, Tenten to his right. Anko was leaning against the wall behind him with Kakashi, Guy, Kurenai and Itachi. What do you think? Naruto asked casually. Depends on what that guy has in the bundle, Tenten said seriously as she studied him. He's your teammate. Do you think Lee Kuin can beat him Niji-Nizan? Hinata asked calmly. Niji stepped up to the rail next to Hinata but didn't lean on it. Hi, Hinata-sama. Lee will beat him easily, Niji said in a calm, respectful tone. Hinata smiled. Good. Lee Kuin is a really nice person. I'd hate to see him get hurt. Naruto was about to say something when Geki coughed and signaled them to begin. He watched Lee run in very fast for a genin with a leaf hurricane that missed, but followed it with a straight left that hit Kankuro in the chest and knocked him back skidding 15 feet, and frowned. He's holding back too much. He's supposed to impress the judges, so they promote him. He won't do it like that, Naruto said, almost disappointed. I agree, but you know how he is, Niji said calmly. Stop playing with him, Lee, and finish it, Naruto yelled. Everyone not from Leaf looked at Naruto annoyed, then Rock Lee curiously. Lee looked up into the catwalk. Can I, Guy-sensei? Lee asked with his usual excitement, and when Guy nodded, he gave one of his familiar blinding smiles. I am sorry for what I must do to you. Please forgive me, Lee said seriously and gave Kankuro a polite bow. Kankuro stood up straight, amused and confused. Is this guy serious? He thinks he's about to kick my ass and he apologizes first. When Lee vanished, everyone gasped in surprise. Then he appeared in front of Kankuro as he landed a left hook to the body that folded him in half, followed it with a right uppercut that straightened him out and lifted him almost a foot off the ground, and finished with a leaf hurricane that knocked Kankuro across the arena where he slammed into the wall with a crash, then collapsed face down unconscious. Cough. Winner, Rock Lee, Geki said. Tamari stared down at her brother, slightly shocked and stunned. He was playing with him and did that. These Leaf genin may be a lot stronger than we thought, and if the rest are like him, we're in trouble. Tamari thought nervously, then glanced at her youngest brother, and wasn't surprised at all. He didn't seem to care his big brother may be seriously injured. She watched the green spandex-clad kid with the bowl cut and big eyebrows return to his friends while her brother was carried off my medics. Tamari versus Hinata Hyuga. If you lose, I'll give you to mother, Gaara said in his dead voice. Tamari cringed visibly, jumped the rail, opened her fan and glided down on it to her spot on the ground, then folded it back and stood it on end with a hand on top. Tamari glanced up at the other catwalk and saw her opponent having a talk with the blonde kid she met 5 days ago. Ah, so she's my opponent. If what they said is right, I better not let her get near me. If she blocks my chakra, I'm screwed big time, Tamari thought, glanced up at Gaara and swallowed nervously. Hinata held in her giggle at what Naruto had just whispered in her ear, as she leaned back with a slight blush, nodded and headed for the stairs to the arena floor. Anko stepped up and took Hinata's place, leaning on the rail. What did you tell her, Naruto-kun? Anko asked quietly, but didn't mind that Tenten and Niji also heard her. Anko's eyes opened wider for just an instant when Naruto whispered it in her ear, then smirked slyly. You lil shit. This is gonna be good. Tenten-chan, you'll want to watch this match closely. And keep an eye on Tamari, Anko said quietly, especially with what Hinata-chan is gonna do to her. I almost feel sorry for her. 18 years in that family, probably never even kissed anyone. Now this is going to happen, Anko thought. Tenten glanced at Anko, nodded, then saw the familiar, but oh so subtle smirk on her face, then saw the look on Naruto's face and knew something fun was going to happen. She'd had more poker games and prank wars with Naruto, Hinata, and Anko in the last year that she could remember, knew those looks well and what they meant. She watched Hinata walk out to her place and get in her jukin stance. When the proctor signaled them to start, Tamari opened her giant fan and swung it. A moment later she felt the strong wind and saw Hinata's hair whip back, but she didn't move otherwise. She had to nudge Naruto with her elbow and smile. Thanks to him, they'd learned to water walk already, and Hinata's control was practically perfect. Only Naruto and Sakura were as good. She knew Tamari would have to hit Hinata with hurricane force winds to knock her out of her jukin stance. It was subtle, but she saw wave after wave of wind crash into Hinata with no effect, and noticed the front of Hinata's jacket wasn't flattening against her chest and outlining her huge breasts. She was using her chakra to anchor herself and stiffen her jacket to hide her figure, when she saw Hinata's feet shift slightly. This is about over. Hinata-chan is ready, Tenten said and smiled happily. Tamari was really frustrated. She'd hit the Hyuga girl with everything short of her few lethal attacks. She couldn't figure why that small girl wasn't blown away or hadn't attacked. Fine, but you asked for it. Tamari yelled annoyed, then stopped her wind barrage for just a brief moment to launch her fatal wind jutsu when the girl vanished in a blur of incredible speed she couldn't follow. The next thing she knew, the Hyuga girl was face to face with her, and an instant later she's flying through the air head first without her fan. She didn't panic though, extend her arms and legs, reached out with her chakra, turned and landed on her feet in a crouch at what she quickly calculated as 21 feet from her original position, and stood with a confident smirk as she looked at the smaller Hyuga girl. Not bad, little girl, but you can't beat, Tamari said confidently, almost arrogantly. Then she saw the girl's hands as she raised them, and the whistles started to register in her ears. She paled as she hoped. No, prayed she wasn't seeing what she thought she was in the girl's hands. Over here, Tamari, she heard a girl say from behind and above her. Turned around and looked up. It was the other girl with the cute blonde kid. After she's yelled out and Tamari turned toward her, Tenten got a huge smile on her face. Nobody has faster or more nimble hands than Hinata-chan except Naruto-kun. Tenten thought. Hey Tamari, you seem to have lost your shirt, and that sports bra you had on is for girls with B and C cups. Not big melons like yours. What are you? An E-cup? Tenten yelled with a slight hint of lust in her voice. If she hadn't seen Hinata's huge breasts dozens of times already, she knew she would have fainted with a severe nosebleed already. Tamari spun back around facing Hinata. Her firm, round E-cup breasts shook side to side like fighting puppies when she stopped, and saw Hinata standing there with a big smile on her face, her shirt in her right hand. Her sports bra she wore to compress and hide them was hanging from her left. Tamari threw her arms around her bare chest. Her entire upper body, including her arms, blushed neon red, and she dropped to the ground in a tight ball to hide her chest. She'd been totally, utterly humiliated to her very core. I submit, Tamari squeaked out as best she could. In his seat, Sarutobi had to use every ounce of willpower he had to stay conscious. He couldn't afford to faint in front of this crowd. Kami, give me strength, he prayed. Hinata wins, the proctor said, still stunned by what he just saw. Hinata ran across the arena and helped Tamari up as she covered her chest with her shirt, then escorted Tamari out the door to the back where the med center and recovery rooms were. Niji Hyuga versus Fuki. I submit, Fuki yelled from the catwalk immediately. After what she just saw, there was no way in hell she was getting in there. I'm not as big as Tamari, but I'm not showing my boobs to everyone. Well, except Kiba-kun if he wanted to see them. Fuki thought and glanced at her teammate Kiba. Niji sighed. I had no idea Hinata-sama was capable of such an act. But I would not do such a thing to you, Fuki-chan. Niji said seriously. Hayashi-sama and father are going to shit when they find out what Hinata-sama did. I must admit though, I didn't know she could move that fast, and her hand speed and dexterity were incredible. She's probably faster than me and such skill. Niji thought, both very impressed and humbled, but he knew it had to be Naruto's influence. He was why she was so strong. I'm most impressed, Anko-san, Naruto-san. Recovery Room 2, Underground Arena. Hinata sat on the side of the bed, next to Tamari, who was curled up under the blankets crying from what she'd said was the most humiliating experience of her life. And she'd caused it. She really felt bad about what she'd done now. After Tamari had briefly told her only her family doctor, an older woman, had ever seen her nude, and even that was a little embarrassing for her. She knew Tamari was the enemy. The older Sand Kunoichi, despite her bitch attitude, Hinata could tell that deep down Tamari was as shy and gentle as she used to be. I'm sorry, Tamari. Hinata said, apologetic alley. I'm dead. Tamari interrupted between sobs. No one is going to, Hinata said to comfort the older girl. No, you don't understand, Tamari yelled as she sat up, the blankets held over her chest, even though she had her sports bra and shirt back on. I'm not afraid of you. It's Gaara. He told B if I lost he'd kill me. Would he really do that? Hinata asked, a little shocked. You don't know him like I do. He's also my little brother and Tamari said, almost too terrified to even say it. Hinata swallowed nervously. She had a good idea what Tamari wanted to tell her. He has Shikaku, the one-tailed raccoon demon, sealed inside him, Hinata said nervously. Tamari looked at her amazed. You know what he is? How? Tamari said, totally shocked. Naruto-kun figured it out that day we met you. That's why he wasn't afraid of Gaara. Hinata said calmly and gently. Tamari's sharp mind kicked into high gear. She'd never thought about it before and probably never would have if all of that hadn't happened. She thought about everything she'd ever heard or read about Konoha, then a name popped into her head and suddenly everything clicked. Naruto has the nymph, Tamari said. The moment Tamari spoke, she knew what she was going to say and gently, but very quickly clapped her right hand over Tamari's mouth. Don't say it. That's an S-rank secret and you can be executed for just saying it. Hinata said seriously as she looked into Tamari's eyes. Tamari nodded, she understood, and a moment later Hinata removed her hand. She thought about her words carefully. So I'm right. And you know? Tamari asked cautiously, and was only a little surprised when Hinata nodded. But you aren't afraid of him, and no one else in Konoha seems to be either, do they know? The Jounin and some of his friends do, like Tenten-chan. She's the other girl with Naruto-kun, the one that called to you after Hinata said, then looked down a little ashamed. There's one more thing. If Gaara tries to kill any of our friends, Naruto will kill him. He has orders from Hokage-sama. And we know you're allied with Sound and are planning to invade us, we just don't know when. If you hurt me for what I did or to escape, please don't, Naruto-kun will kill you. We're betrothed. Hinata said calmly, her gaze never left her lap. Tamari flopped back on the bed, pale and very scared. She laid there in silence for almost 5 minutes, then sat up, her face solemn. He may be a monster and psychotic killer, but Gaara is my baby brother. Him and Kankuro are my only family now. Orochimaru killed my father, the Kazekage, and took his place. I'm not supposed to know that, but I noticed the change in his personality. I hated him as a person and my father and won't miss him. But I don't want to lose any more family. Can Naruto beat Gaara without killing him? Gaara is obsessed with finding someone worth fighting to prove his existence means something. I think that if Naruto can defeat him, I can find my brother under all that hatred and sadness and save him. Tamari said sincerely, pulled off the blankets, slipped past Hinata onto the floor, and kneeled to her in submission. Please, I'm begging you. If Naruto can save my little brother, I'll do anything. I'll betray Suna and Orochimaru. I'll defect to Konoha, go to prison. I'll even be Naruto's slave and give myself to him, to you, to the short girl with her hair in buns. Just please, convince Naruto to save my baby brother. Tamari said sadly but sincerely and started to cry again. Most of who she was as a woman and a Noichi had been ripped away in the arena. Her mind was desperately grabbing anything to rebuild itself. She needed order and structure in her life, and she saw Naruto as her best chance for that. She doesn't know Orochimaru is dead, Hinata thought, stunned by what Tamari just said. ABD, she read from Tamari's body language. Back in the arena. Give up, Shikamaru, you can't hurt me, Bull bellowed. You're right. And this is too much work. I give up, Shikamaru said in his usual tired tone. The winner. Bull, the proctor said, slightly stunned. You lazy jerk, Sakura and Ino angrily yelled at him in unison. Shikamaru just shrugged. You're lucky, Bull. I have to deal with them and Kurenai-sensei all day long. Then deal with my mom, who's worse than all three combined. Women are so troublesome. Bull just chuckled and followed Shikamaru back up the stairs to the catwalk. Kurenai stepped up behind Sakura and Ino. Leave him alone, you two. You know the basic genjutsu he knows wouldn't work on someone like Bull, and there's no way he was going to do anything that might kill him. He did his best and I'm proud of him. Even if he is the laziest person I've ever met, he's smarter than the three of us put together. Someday he's going to save our asses with that incredible mind of his. You'd both die to save his lazy butt, and you know it. Sakura traded glances with Ino, gave her a subtle nod and sighed. Hi, Kurenai-sensei. He's a lazy, good for nothing, but we do like him despite that. And he is our teammate, Sakura said softly. Shikamaru finally reached his teammates and sensei, stopped and waited for the verbal beating. Instead of yelling, they both kissed him, one on each cheek, and congratulated him on a great match. Everyone around him laughed when Shikamaru blushed, slightly stunned and confused. I'll never figure women out. Temari might be my type though. Ino Yamanaka versus Kiba Inuzuka. Ino gave Sakura and Kurenai a devious, sly smile. I'll be right back. Then turned and headed for the stairs. Sakura, you know Ino better than most. Is she going to do what I think she is? Kurenai said with a small smirk. Sakura just smiled, amused. Hi, she is Kurenai-sensei, Sakura said calmly. In the arena, Kiba had just jumped down and was waiting for Ino, Akamaru to his left. He squatted down and rubbed the white puppy's head. Okay, Akamaru, now we get to pay her back for teasing us all those years. She's still our friend, so don't hurt her too bad. We want her humiliated, not dead, Kiba told him quietly. Akamaru barked his agreement. Since Kiba had his back to their friends, she took the spot facing them and waved, mainly at Naruto. Though she still joked with them about stealing Naruto from Hinata, she'd long since stopped actually trying to do it. It had become a fun game she played with Hinata when they were out eating, shopping, or at a sleepover. Ino watched Kiba just over 20 feet away and instead of her fighting stance stood there, feet shoulder-width apart, hands on hips, chest out and smiling. When the proctor told them to begin, she watched Kiba do his clone jutsu and turn Akamaru into his clone, then the all-fours jutsu and charge in. This is too easy, Ino thought. She knew she couldn't match his speed or strength. Only a couple people had as much stamina as him, so she went after his weakness, namely his biggest one she knew she could best exploit. She waited until they got about 10 feet away and as fast as she could yanked up her purple shirt. She wasn't wearing anything under it as usual. Both Kibas froze dead in their tracks. She sat her shirt on the top of her breasts, walked up to them, stood both with a hand under their chin, and once they were standing straight enough she reached down low, grabbed both Kibas by the balls and squeezed really hard for about 10 seconds before she released them. They collapsed to the ground, out cold. Akamaru changed back to himself after he hit the ground. Ino pulled down her shirt and looked at the proctor with a big smile. Well, don't keep a girl waiting. Winner, Ino Yamanaka, the proctor said, winced slightly and coughed. Ino walked back to the catwalk while medics came out and took Kiba and Akamaru to the back for a quick checkup. Ino stopped next to Tenten, all her friends and the Jounins staring at her with smiles and her shock. Don't act so surprised I did that. I've been teasing everyone since I got him. I just figured it was time I showed him. Besides, I didn't want to be outdone by Hinata and some sand kunoichi. I'm top diva around here and don't you guys forget it. Ino said proudly. The rest I owed him for accusing me of stuffing. I told him he'd regret it for not apologizing. Before she could walk away, Tenten took Ino's arm and pulled her close. That was incredible, Ino-chan. I'd love to have a private show, if you're interested. Tenten whispered in her ear seductively. Ino looked Tenten in the eyes and gave her a left eye wink no one would see. I'd love to, Ten-chan, Ino subtly whispered so only Tenten would hear her or know she said anything. Thank you, Tenten. Ino said happily to a smiling Tenten, then walked past everyone to Sakura and Kurenai. Naruto, like every other guy there, made a mental note about Ino and pushed the thought aside. He subtly glanced at Hinata and Anko as he motioned subtly with his head to Tenten. When he saw them subtly smirk back, he knew they were thinking the same thing he was now. Tenten had finally made the first move and Ino accepted. It's about time, Naruto thought happily. Chapter 10. Sakura's Secret. July 21st, 8:23 a.m., Underground Arena. There was a short break after the last match when Itachi, though inwardly very amused by what Ino did, asked if what Ino did was legal. He was disappointed that Kiba, his most powerful team member, was taken down so easily by a nice pair of tits, and made a mental note to give Kiba some special training to control himself. He was also mad at himself that he hadn't taken the powerful Inuzuka sex drive into account during training. Sarutobi had allowed it, though unusual, it was a legal tactic. Chuji Akimichi versus Sasuke Uchiha. Sasuke jumped down from the catwalk, crossed to his place and waited for Chuji. Try to give me a decent challenge, Sasuke said confidently. Chuji just nodded and took a slightly modified basic taijutsu stance, like a defensive boxing stance, When the proctor gave the signal, he didn't move, just watched Sasuke closely as he gathered and focused his chakra. He knew he was no match for Sasuke's speed, and if not for some advice from Naruto and Gai-sensei's special training, he probably would have used his human boulder jutsu right away. He had 2 advantages over Sasuke he hoped would be enough. He was bigger and much stronger, but that didn't mean much unless he could get close. The one advantage he had over almost everyone was his chakra reserves. Even at the academy he had at least double what nearly everyone else did. He had to outlast Sasuke. Then he had a chance. Naruto watched intently. "Come on Chuji, you can do it," Naruto thought. He saw Sasuke suddenly leap almost 30 feet in the air, pull 5 kunai from both weapon pouches and throw all 10 at Chuji. His aim is off, those won't. Oh shit, it's a trap, Naruto thought as he saw them. He saw Chuji block the only 2 kunai actually thrown at him with what were obviously heavy armor bracers under his sleeves, the rest stuck in the ground around him. Before Sasuke even landed, he saw Chuji look down when he heard the exploding tags attached to them burning, but before he could do much but cover up, they exploded and blew Chuji off his feet, where he crashed hard near the wall. As Sasuke came down, he recognized the hand signs Sasuke was doing. Then he landed, took a breath and blew a big fireball at Chuji as he was getting up, stunned but not out of it. If Chuji wasn't built as solid as he was now thanks to his and now Guy's physical training, he definitely would have been knocked out. Chuji didn't react like he thought when he saw the fireball coming. Chuji ran straight into it and crossed H's arms in front of his face before he hit it. It exploded, and to his and everyone else's surprise, Chuji burst from the smoke a moment later, apparently not even slowed down. Then he noticed how Chuji looked and smiled. He's using the stone armor jutsu. He had to have been saving that for later. It's not as good as Bull's. His ability to use earth jutsu is almost a Keki-Eigenkai. One of his relatives must have been a rock nin. He's only the 2nd generation born in Konoha. He snapped out of his thoughts when he saw the mild surprise on Sasuke's face, and when Chuji got close, threw a surprisingly fast punch. Unfortunately for Chuji, Sasuke was faster, did a front flip over him and knocked Chuji face first to the ground with a thunderous heel kick, pulled 5 more kunai, all with exploding tags on them, threw them around Chuji, then leapt back. Just as Chuji got to his hands and knees, they went off. When the smoke cleared, Chuji was out and most of his stone armor had fallen off. He was close. I hope he did well enough to get promoted, Naruto said. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha, Geki said and coughed. Sasuke returned to the catwalk as 3 medics carried Chuji away to check him for injuries. Guy smiled very brightly when Sasuke complimented him on training Chuji. He'd been tougher than Sasuke had expected, which he actually liked. What Sasuke didn't like was the glares and threats from everyone on the catwalk with him, Genin and Jounin, when Guy went into one of his fires of youth speeches because of his comment. When the arena was cleared a few minutes later, the names appeared for the next match. Shino Aburame versus Naruto Uzumaki. Thank Kami, Naruto exclaimed and jumped over the rail to the arena floor to get away from Guy's speech. I agree, Shino said in his monotone voice, but a very subtle hint of joy slipped out. He wouldn't say it, but he was thrilled to be able to get away from Guy's speech also. He leapt over the rail like Naruto. Everyone froze in near shock. They'd all heard it. Shino rarely spoke, so when he did, it was something to hear. They'd heard it in his voice, but only because they knew him so well. Emotion. A moment later, most started to laugh. Medic Station, Room 2. Thank you, Hinata. I'm very grateful for your kindness, and I hope Naruto will help me, Tamari said sincerely from her knees in front of Hinata. Then she saw Hinata move to leave, and for some reason that overwhelmed her common sense. She panicked, standing quickly, her hands shot up to grab Hinata's shoulders and stop her from leaving. Please don't leave me alone, Hinata-san, I don't want. Dear Kami. Hinata. They're so full but soft, Tamari said, stunned, her hands gently, repeatedly squeezing. When she stood, she reached for Hinata's shoulders, but never made it. She'd grabbed Hinata's huge breasts through her jacket, and was so stunned she couldn't make herself let go. When she finally looked at Hinata's face, it was neon red and Hinata was sucking her bottom lip, her eyes closed, and her body was locked up from shock. Hoping she hadn't just cost Gaara his life, as well as her own, she released her firm grip on Hinata's breasts. When she did, she saw Hinata's eyes snap open, then felt like a dozen exploding tags went off in her panties an instant before everything went black. She woke with a burning, throbbing pain in her pussy and slowly opened her eyes. She knew she was still on the floor. That didn't surprise her. But what she saw actually made her forget about the agony between her legs. Hinata was staring down at her, and her expression could only be one thing. P. Please don't kill me, Hinata-sama, it was an accident. Tamari closed her eyes and tensed up for the death blow. She'd heard all about the Hyuga's gentle fist style. They could kill you with a single strike, frying your brain inside your skull, or burst your heart. A moment later, she felt small but strong hands on her breasts. Oh, Kami, she's going to burst my breasts. Tamari thought. Gee, go on, Hinata-sama. Destroy them. I deserve it, Tamari said submissively. She felt a firm squeeze, then was released. Surprised, she opened her eyes. You aren't going to destroy my breasts. Hinata looked down at her. No, Hinata said emotionlessly. She had been angry for a moment, but had let it go. Stand up, Hinata stated emotionlessly, then watched Tamari obey, obviously still terrified. She saw that Tamari was still in agony from her knee shot, but was obviously not covering herself out of fear she'd make her madder. Give me your sports bra and panties, Hinata stated matter-of-factly, as if Tamari had no say in it. Tamari immediately stripped and handed the two items to Hinata and put her arms at her sides, feet shoulder-width apart. You will tell no one what you know about me or Naruto-kun. You are an enemy, but you haven't done anything bad enough for me to kill you. But if anyone I love gets killed by your brother, I'll do something I'll regret. It's not in my nature to hurt anyone, but I've learned that sometimes a hard lesson is needed. Hinata said emotionlessly, folded Tamari's sports bra and panties and put them in her med pouch. Until I release you, you're my servant. We may become friends one day. But until then, in exchange for your brother's life, I own you. I won't hurt you, but you will be punished. Hinata said, took a step back, activated her Byakugan and struck a dozen tenketsu, chakra points, on Tamari's body in a certain order. Tamari flinched but didn't feel any pain. In fact, the pain between her legs was suddenly gone. She stood there for a moment trying to figure out what Hinata did to her. Then it hit her. An intense feeling of sexual pleasure was quickly building her lower belly. It got more intense by the second. Her nipples got hard and she felt another part of her was too. You'll feel this way until I release you. I'll be back later, Hinata said calmly, turned, left the room and shut the door behind her. She called over a medic in the hallway. No one is to enter this room except me, under my authority as heir to the Hyuga clan. Hi, Hinata-sama, the male medic said and bowed. Hinata turned and headed for the hall to the far side of the arena where her friends were. Underground arena. 4 minutes later. Hinata walked out of the door on the arena floor and quickly, but quietly ran up the stairs and rejoined Naruto. What did I miss? Naruto smiled at Hinata. Niji and Fuki were picked for the third match, but Fuki gave up right away because of what you did. Then Bull and Shikamaru had a short match that Bull won because Shikamaru gave up. Then Ino-chan and Kiba had a short match. Ino won by flashing her chest, then knocked out Kiba and Akamaru, who was transformed into Kiba, with one move I'll let her tell you about later. Naruto said, then heard Ino giggle and Kiba and Akamaru whimper quietly. Next was Chuji and Sasuke. That was a great match, but Sasuke won. Then Shino and I had the longest, best match so far. I finally won when he got low on chakra and had to give up. Then a grass Nin fought a rock Nin, and now the other two are fighting. It's like the same match twice. And it's over just as fast. The rock Nin won this one also. Hinata looked and nodded. Anko-sensei, Naruto-kun, Tenten-chan, after the matches are done, I need you to join me in the medic station, Hinata said seriously. Anko looked at Hinata's face and knew that expression. If she was that serious, it was important. Hi. Sakura Haruno versus Fubiki. Sakura was down and in place first, straightened her red shirt, put her shoulder-length pink hair in a ponytail and took her fighting stance. Her opponent was the final grass Nin, the only other kunoichi, besides Tamari, not from Konoha. She was looking forward to beating the taller, more developed girl and proving that Konoha had the best kunoichi of any elemental country. Naruto looked past Sakura from the far side where the grass kunoichi was casually strolling towards Sakura wearing brown pants. Long-sleeve dark green shirt tied closed with a belt to highlight her figure and a straw hat like the other two had worn. Her brown hair flowed down her back to her waist. About 5'7". Can't tell how strong she is with those loose clothes. Nice tits though. Looks like big C-cups. And pretty firm too. Oh. From that look on her face, she isn't going to take Sakura-chan seriously. That'd be a mistake. I just hope she doesn't do or say anything stupid. But I can't shake this feeling something big will happen. Naruto thought. Did anyone encounter them during the last exam? Naruto asked. We did, Naruto-kun. Fuki said. Quickly walked over to Naruto and stood to Hinata's right, leaned on the rail. We didn't fight them. But we did see him fight another team on the way to the tower. She uses a lot of edged weapons like Tenten-chan. She has them hidden all over her body. It looked like the way she was always able to pull a new one. Thanks, Fuki-chan. She has a good chance of winning if she can keep her distance and not get caught in one of Sakura-chan's genjutsu. Naruto said quietly to his friends, and saw them nod subtly in agreement. Naruto knew Sakura's style. She was a close to mid-range fighter, and though good with kunai, she normally saved them for traps or for one or two big attacks with a bunch of explosive tags attached, both of which she carried a lot of. Well, not as many as Tenten, but no one carried as many weapons as she did. Naruto glanced at Tenten and smirked. He watched closely. The second it started, Fubiki threw 4 kunai at Sakura, who barely managed to duck and roll to her right, pulling 2 kunai as she stood, one in each hand. Tenten watched intently. She'd heard what Fuki said. She wanted to be ready in case her friend lost. She watched Sakura and Fubiki exchange several kunai barrages as they sent each other around the arena, shifting her weight from one the other to rub her upper thighs together. She couldn't help herself. Kunoichi fighting with weapons excited her. Tenten's subtle moments didn't go unnoticed though. Oh, Cammy, look at that tight little ass. I don't know how much longer I can keep my feelings hidden from her. If she came out, then Kurenai glanced subtly at her student, but kept her smile hidden. Enjoying the match, Ino? Ino tensed in surprise for an instant and quickly shifted her gaze to the arena. Hi, Kurenai-sensei. Come on, Sakura. Kick her butt, Ino said and gave Kurenai her best. I wasn't doing anything, innocent smile. Kurenai nodded as if she'd been fooled by Ino's fake smile and turned back to watch her other student. Sakura looked at the kunai in her hands. 4 should be enough to cover me, Sakura said to herself, crouched in the shadow of the big hands statue by the Hokage's seat above the arena. She leapt out from her hiding spot and threw the 4 kunai with exploding tags in a short line 10 foot in front of the grass kunoichi. They exploded 2 seconds after impact, just enough time for her to react and cover her face. The instant she landed, Sakura ran at the temporarily blinded grass kunoichi full speed and sent her flying into the far wall with a powerful overhand right to the chest, right between the bigger girl's ample breasts. As the dust cloud settled, Sakura watched her slumped against the wall and smiled. That should, Sakura said, then gasped when the girl shook her head and stood up, her left arm over her chest. How dare you hit me in the tits? Fubiki yelled angrily, suddenly pulled 2 kunai with her right and threw them at Sakura at blinding speed. Sakura was caught off guard a moment and tried to duck the kunai heading for her chest. She almost made it. Sakura had dropped to her belly in the dirt. She quickly hopped back to her feet angry and started to brush off her shirt. Hey bitch, watch it. You could have killed, Sakura yelled, then suddenly froze in shock. Looking at the side of the arena, Naruto watched Sakura from above and behind Fubiki. When Naruto saw Sakura brush the dirt from her chest, he knew what had happened. The kunai had missed Sakura, but not her sleeveless red shirt. It ripped from the collar to the shoulder, and the shirt, from her belt up, fell down like flaps over the front and back of her shorts, which left Sakura topless, her B-cup breasts fully exposed. Fubiki started laughing hard. You call those tiny bumps tits? He turned suddenly when he heard Kurenai gasp in fear. No one laugh at Sakura, and I mean it, Naruto said quickly and as seriously as he could. Dear Kami, please, don't do it, Sakura-chan. You don't know what'll happen, Kurenai said, almost terrified. Don't do what, Kurenai-sensei? Naruto asked, heard Sakura yell a word, then he felt it and turned back to the arena. I don't know how, but Sakura is able to open the chakra gates at will, Kurenai said, her face now devoid of emotion. How many? Guy asked in a rare, serious voice. A single tear ran down each of Kurenai's cheeks. If she wanted to. All 8. Kurenai said in a dead tone. 2. Sakura yelled as her chakra doubled again. Everyone in the arena gasped in shock at the power Sakura put out. With a few exceptions, no one had seen anyone unlock the chakra gates. 3. Sakura roared as her skin turned red. 4. Sakura yelled and her chakra jumped to low jounin level. Fubiki was almost scared shitless. She knew there was no way in hell a genin should be able to open the chakra gates. 5. Sakura absolutely roared with power and rage as her chakra jumped to high joinin level. Fubiki could feel it. The pink-haired girl in front of her was at high jounin level. She desperately wanted to scream her submission, but couldn't. 6. Sakura roared as her skin got dark red. Her chakra spiked to elite jounin. Someone stop her. I don't think she's gonna stop. Ino screamed, absolutely terrified her best friend was going to kill herself. Almost in a total panic, Fubiki summoned every bit of chakra she had, short of exhausting herself, and flashed through the hand signs for her best jutsu. The fact it was a fatal jutsu didn't matter, her only thought was survival. Earth style. Great stone tsunami. A 30-foot earth and stone wave rose up in front of Fubiki and a moment later crashed down on Sakura, who just stood there. Everyone, included Sarutobi, watched intently, unsure if it had actually hit her. A few moments later, the area where Sakura stood exploded. Debris flew everywhere. As it did, they heard Sakura yell 7. They all looked at her in slack-jawed silence. The left side of her face was bloody and obviously crushed. Her arms were broken in several places, and most shocking, so were her legs. Yet somehow, against all logic, Sakura was standing on broken legs. How was beyond their comprehension. "Ya dead o you fucking bish," Sakura said, her jaw obviously broken, and spit out a big gob of blood. "I submit, just don't kill me," Fubiki suddenly screamed, terrified to her very core. She'd never seen such rage before. Her eyes went dull as her mind shut down, unable to deal with what she just saw and knowing her gruesome death was now unavoidable. The girl was going to literally rip her apart and there was nothing she could do about it. "Winner Sakura Haruno," Geki quickly said after a glance up at Sarutobi. Naruto shoe-shined in front of Sakura an instant later. Any thought of hiding his power for Goten, followed by Kurenai, Anko, Kakashi, Guy and Itachi, behind him. "Sakura-chan, it's over," he said with as much love as he could for his friend, who as the power was ripping through her body, every muscle in her body had at least doubled in size. "Please, Sakura-chan, it's over. If you don't close the gates and let us help you, you'll die," Kurenai said warmly. Sakura was almost completely blinded by the rage and power erupting within her. The pain didn't even register in her mind. She looked at the people in front of her, her broken hands clenched in tight fists. Part of her wanted to unlock the next gate and dismember the grass kunoichi she saw standing terrified behind the familiar faces. Then she heard his voice again. "Naruto-kun?" Sakura thought. "No, that bitch humiliated us and tried to kill us. She must die." An identical but not her own voice said to Sakura. In her mind, Sakura saw a photo-negative version of herself standing there. She had the kanji for inner Sakura on her forehead. Her Hittite was on top her head. "Who are you? Am I a Jinchuriki like Naruto-kun?" Sakura said to her other self. "I'm your other half. Everything you keep suppressed and the source of your true power. Call me Inner Sakura. Now let me out so I can kill that fucking grass cunt." Inner Sakura said calmly, almost happily at the suggestion. Naruto looked at Sakura very worried, but slightly confused. Her eyes glazed over and her lips moved as if she was talking. Then just for a moment what looked like a very thick black ink began to seep through Sakura's skin, stopped, and went back inside her. "Nu!" Sakura suddenly screamed as she closed the gates and collapsed unconscious. Naruto caught her in his left arm and flipped her shirt up over her now bloody breasts, then scooped her up bridal style and turned to the jounin behind him. "I'm taking Sakura-chan to the back for help. I want that bitch Fubiki there too, in another room," Naruto said matter-of-factly. Anko looked up at the Hokage for orders, saw him take a quick puff of his pipe and nod. "Go, I'll get Fubiki." While Naruto and Anko took the girls to the back, the other jounin returned to the catwalk. Ino ran up to Kurenai when she appeared. Is Sakura-chan going to be okay? Ino asked, very worried. I hope so, Ino, Kurenai said seriously, and knew Ino was truly concerned. She usually called her either Sakura or Forehead. If Ino called her Sakura-chan, it came from her heart and true friendship, though she suspected Ino wanted a closer relationship with her best friend. How did Sakura open 7 gates so easily? You didn't teach her. Only Kakashi and I know how to do it, Guy said seriously. I can only open 2, and even then I'd only do it in an extreme emergency. How can she open 7 without training? Kakashi said, also in a serious voice. Select the next fighters, Sarutobi said, loudly but calmly. He didn't show it, but he was very worried about Sakura. She loved reading as much as he did. He wanted to stop the exams and check on her, but knew he couldn't do that. Even though he was one of the few people in the world that knew what had really just happened to Sakura. As soon as these are over, I'll have to send for her. She won't like it though. He could bring her back. If anyone could get her to return, it's Naruto. I better send Jiraiya with Team 7. You're the only person that can heal Sakura. If you don't, her life as a kunoichi is over. She reminds me so much of you, Tsunade, Sarutobi thought sadly. Chi-Chi vs. Ten. Chapter 11. Chunin Exam 3. Finished. July 21st, 9:19 a.m. Underground Arena. Ten vs. Chi-Chi. Are you ready, Chi-Chi? Ten asked as calmly as she could after what she'd just seen. Chi-Chi looked at Ten from next to Bull, who had his huge right hand on her shoulder. She was still shaking slightly. She'd never been so scared before. Hi. I'm ready, Chi-Chi said, gave Bull's arm a pat, then was carefully picked up and given a warm, but gentle hug, then put back down. Good luck, Chi-Chi-chan, do your best, Bull said in a warm but deep voice. Don't hold back, Chi-Chi, Sasuke said and gave her a brief smile. Though only slightly taller than Ten, getting encouragement from both her teammates, especially the normally reserved Sasuke, made her feel 6 feet tall. She stood as tall as she could, brushed back her red hair and stuck out her D-cup chest, which she knew looked a few cup sizes bigger on her small frame. Let's show 'em how the little girls kick butt, Ten, Chi-Chi exclaimed, then headed for the stairs, her breasts bouncing under her shirt. Bull was her best friend, but she respected Sasuke for his skill, so getting encouragement from both was big. I don't know if I want to fight her or kiss her, Ten said seriously, a big smile on her face as she watched her fellow small but busty kunoichi bounce down the stairs. Everyone just smiled, especially Bull. Maybe there's a way I can do both, Ten said playfully. Don't worry, Bull. I won't seriously hurt her. I'm just glad I didn't get paired against you. Most of my attacks won't work on you, Ten said seriously with a smile, gave a small bow and headed for the stairs. Before Ten got more than a step, Anko grabbed her arm, pulled her close, leaned down and whispered in her ear. When she straightened up, she had a devious smile on her face. Ten looked up at Anko with mild surprise, smirked and gave her sensei a subtle nod. Chi-Chi watched her friend and soon-to-be opponent come down the stairs and head towards her. She got a little nervous when she saw the playful, definitely lust-filled, and she knew most likely very embarrassing for her, smile. She knew that at most she'd get a painful beating, but no worse than she would in a hard sparring session with her teammates. But 2 things bothered her. First, there were 3 spots on her body that her male teammates wouldn't touch her in a spar. Ten wouldn't just touch them, she'd strike them. And second, Ten was not only a fellow kunoichi, but a lesbian that she knew thought she was very cute. When her mother had given her the talk, she didn't just cover boys, but told her in detail about jumping the fence and said she'd done it many times over the years, both before she'd married her father, and to her surprise, after he'd died. She hadn't given any names though, out of respect for their privacy. Not that she'd mind a little friendly experimentation, but this wasn't the place for that. But knowing them like she did, the look on Tenten's face told her everything she needed to know. I'm gonna get felt up, and probably end up showing everyone my boobs. Oh well. Maybe I could use this against her. Kakashi-sensei taught us to always exploit an enemy's weakness. I just never expected it would be this, and with another kunoichi. I just have to get past her weapons. But if I'm right, she'll do that for me. I hope Mom's advice works as well as she said it would. Chi-Chi thought. Once the match started, it was apparent to everyone from Konoha that the barrages of kunai Tenten threw at Chi-Chi weren't aimed at her. Tenten was directing Chi-Chi towards the wall for a trap. When Tenten threw at you, you got hit. Stalling was a waste of time because she never ran out weapons. Everyone knew the story. Tenten's first period teacher at the academy had gotten upset with her for throwing a kunai in class. The fact she had done it to kill a wasp didn't matter. The woman had tried to totally disarm her and spent the rest of the school day removing weapons and scrolls of weapons from her clothes. Nearing a total breakdown, she just gave Tenten a hug and sent her home. There are still scratches halfway up the wall of the room from the piles. Her right eye still twitches slightly at the sight of a kunai. Chi-Chi smiled nervously at Tenten, only 20 feet away, her back a mere 4 feet from the wall, and though she knew it was a waste, pulled and threw a kunai at her. She gritted her teeth in nervous frustration when Tenten pulled and tossed her own at lightning speed and knocked hers out of the air with an amused smile on her face. At 15 feet away, Tenten suddenly threw down a smoke bomb. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," Chi-Chi said nervously as her eyes darted around. Then Tenten ran straight at her from the cloud, and from each side circling around in a 3-point attack. Illusions. Think, which one is the real Tenten? Chi-Chi said, then froze. The one behind you, cutie, Tenten said as she reached under Chi-Chi's arms and grabbed her large breasts. Gotcha, Tenten said, released her right hand, and with a motion and quick flip of her hand and fingers that looked like a jutsu. She had a kunai in her hand. She used to slice off Chi-Chi's weapons pouch, then slice Chi-Chi's shirt from waist to collar up the front, also cutting her sports bra in half. Tenten pulled open Chi-Chi's shirt with her left, repeated the hand motion, and suddenly had a kunai. She put the left at Chi-Chi's throat and the right under Chi-Chi's firm, D-cup breast. Please don't move, Chi-Chi. I really don't want to cut you. Chi-Chi was totally embarrassed, as her neon blush proved, glanced across to her catwalk, saw Sasuke and Kakashi-sensei with a noticeable blush, and Bull. He had both hands on the rail, which was bending in his hands. Her mind raced to find a counter before the match was simply called, as she was basically at Tenten's mercy and helpless. Then it hit her. She closed her eyes a moment to focus, nervously bit her bottom lip, then opened her eyes, pushed down her blush, and relaxed her body. Oh, Cammy, I hope I can do this, Chi-Chi thought, then gently leaned back against Tenten. If you wanted to see my breasts, Tenten-chan, all you had to do was ask, Chi-Chi said seductively, leaned her head back, turned it, and gently kissed Tenten's left cheek. She saw the mild shock on Tenten's face, reached behind her, and gently ran her hands from Tenten's upper thighs to her flat stomach under her shirt. She then brought her left arm up and behind her, gently grabbed Tenten's head, turned her face towards her, and planted a passionate kiss dead on Tenten's lips, holding her head in place. She felt, then heard Tenten drop her kunai and gently grab Chi-Chi's breasts, rolling the unusually large nipples of her scarlet areola that covered the front third of her big D cups with her thumbs, and returned the kiss. Chi-Chi enjoyed the raw sexual energy Tenten was generating, leaned her hips forward a couple inches, and slipped her right hand behind her, careful not to touch Tenten. Chi-Chi broke the kiss and pulled back a few inches. Tenten-chan, forgive me, Chi-Chi said softly in an apologetic voice. Tenten was lost in a sexual haze when Chi-Chi broke the kiss. Then she heard something that sounded like forgive me, but just as the words fully registered in her mind, an intense, almost burning pain hit her. It was centered on her formerly stimulated womanhood. Oh, Cammy, she got my pussy. Oh, Cammy, this hurts. Please release me or I'll use my medical knowledge to put you to the hospital with a very painful, humiliating injury, Chi-Chi said seriously, but obviously reluctantly, put some chakra in her hand, which took on a slight green glow, and projected it into Tenten's most sensitive flesh. Tenten screamed in pain when all the pain receptors in her crotch seemed to fire at once. Chi-Chi hated to use this on Tenten. Kakashi had shown her how to use her healing jutsu as an attack to inflict pain, what they'd finally named her Burning Hands Jutsu. It was her ultimate technique she was saving for later rounds. Her only real skills were her chakra control and the medical jutsu her mother taught her, except maybe for her speed her other skills were slightly above average at best. I can't do this. Even if I make it to the finals, I don't have a chance of winning it, Chi-Chi thought. Tenten, I'll release you and you fall to your knees. I'll face you for a knockout blow, and when I raise my hand you hit my pussy with everything you have and knock me out. In return, I want a night with you, deal? Chi-Chi whispered to Tenten. Tenten heard Chi-Chi's offer, and despite the burning pain between her legs could think just clearly enough to know Chi-Chi was serious, and knowing her so well figured whatever Chi-Chi was doing to her wasn't at full power. "Hi," Tenten managed to say quietly. She felt the pain suddenly vanish, dropped to her knees, hands pressed between her legs protectively, tears in her eyes, amazingly though they were only half real. She looked up and saw Chi-Chi turn, looked down at her and raise a hand for the knockout blow, then saw Chi-Chi's stance. It was subtle but her pussy was exposed, specifically her clit, remembered what Chi-Chi told her, said a silent apology and hit Chi-Chi dead on her clit with an uppercut that bent it painfully on her fist. Everything she had was behind it. Chi-Chi shrieked in blinding agony and collapsed out cold. "I'll make this up to you, I promise." Tenten thought sadly, then stood and pushed Chi-Chi onto her back, where she sprawled out so everyone could see she was unconscious. "Winner, Tenten," Geki said, then coughed. Tenten looked over at Bull and waved him over. He jumped down with a thud and ran over to them. "Please don't be mad. I can't explain, but she'll be fine and I promise she won't be upset. For her, please just trust me on this and carry her to the back," Tenten said sincerely. Bull looked at her a moment, then nodded and scooped up his teammate and headed for the back just as the medics came out. They stopped when they saw him carrying her and Tenten gingerly walking beside him. Once they were out of the arena, the final match came up, though no one was surprised as they were the only two left. Enko glanced at Kakashi. What the hell was that jutsu Chi-Chi did? It looked like a medical jutsu, but it sure as hell wasn't one from Tenten's reaction. "What did you teach her, Kakashi?" Kakashi gave her an eye smile. "We call it burning hands. It's a modified healing jutsu. I had to work with what I had." "So you taught one of the nicest girls I've ever met what's essentially a torture technique? I should kick your ass, you son of a..." Anko said as she got angry, then stopped when she felt a hand on her shoulder. "He's right, Anko-sensei. Chi-Chi's healing jutsu and speed are all she has. She needed a non-fatal jutsu for protection," Naruto said calmly. Anko grunted in annoyance, then sighed and relaxed. "Damn it, you're right. You better train her well, Kakashi. If something happens to that sweet girl because of you, I swear to Kami I'll castrate you with a dull kunai." Kakashi nodded. He knew Anko very well and had no doubts she was dead serious, or that she'd do what she threatened. She could and would. Gaara versus Otokashi. "This should be interesting," Naruto said with a smile. "I wonder what jutsu he uses?" Hinata asked, then turned to Naruto. "Natuto-kun, I made a deal with Temari. I promised her you'd save Gaara from himself. She wants her baby brother too." "I will, Hinata-chan," Naruto interrupted politely. "I won't let my lil princess be a liar. I promise you I'll do everything in my power to help him," Naruto said seriously but quietly. Hinata smiled happily at him. She knew he'd rather die than break a promise to her, and he'd never failed to do anything he said he would for as long as she'd known him, even before they were friends. They watched the Rock Nin throw a barrage of kunai at Gaara. Everyone was surprised he didn't even attempt to dodge. Then at the last second a wall of sand sprang up in front of Gaara and blocked them. Even more amazing to everyone was that Gaara never even flinched. He just stood there, arms crossed over his chest with a cold dead stare. He wasn't bored. It was as if his opponent wasn't even there. The Rock Nin attacked again. Same result. He tried several earth jutsu. They all failed even more pathetically than the kunai. They only seemed to give Gaara more sand. "Mother wants her sacrifice," Gaara said in a dead voice. There was absolutely no emotion in it. He almost sounded mechanical. "Sand shuriken," Gaara said, and dozens of balls of sand shot forward, quickly changing into sand kunai. Only a few hit him, but those that missed stuck in the stone wall. Then Gaara raised his right arm and pointed his open palm at the sand coffin, Gaara said emotionlessly. Then sand rose up from the ground and in seconds totally engulfed the Rock Nin in sand. Naruto saw a dark smile appear on Gaara's face and knew instantly what it meant. "He's gonna kill him," Naruto yelled. Unfortunately for the Rock Nin, they weren't as fast as Naruto. "Sand burial," Gaara said in a cold, sadistic voice as he closed his hand into a fist. A moment later he heard the satisfying scream and shattering of bones as the sand crushed the Rock Nin to pulp. His blood sprayed everywhere except him. The sand blocked and absorbed it wherever they touched as it returned to the gourd on his back. "Winner, Gaara," Geki said. Even he was stunned by the absolutely cold-blooded, sadistic murder of the Rock Nin. While it was technically legal, it was rare for anyone to die in the preliminary matches. Naruto looked across at the remaining Rock Nin. Their shock and rage was obvious to anyone that looked. Then he saw them draw some kunai. "Don't do it. He'll kill you both just as easily," Naruto yelled to the two Rock Nin. He didn't like them, but he didn't want them to die for no reason. Even an enemy deserved a chance as far as he was concerned. Gaara turned and looked up at the two Rock Nin. "Come. Mother always accepts sacrifices. Give us your blood," Gaara said to them in a dead voice that made them pause. The Rock Nin looked at each other with the same thought. Killing was one thing, but there was something about that kid Gaara that wasn't normal. No one should have that kind of control over sand, and he didn't even use a hand sign. It seemed to move on its own like it was alive. They were mad, but they weren't stupid. This wasn't the time or place for this, especially if the Konoha Nin got involved. Both backed down. Gaara almost looked disappointed, then did a sand shushin back to the catwalk. Sarutobi stood, his face stern. "First, I want to congratulate the winners and apologize to IWA for your lose. The finals will be held in 1 month at the outdoor stadium. Use this time to train and prepare. You've seen some of what your opponents can do, so pepper yourselves accordingly. Please gather in the center of the arena," Sarutobi said, then nodded to an ANBU next to him, who shushined down to Geki and handed him a bag, then returned to his place. Geki had the available winners line up, then went to the end. "Pick a number," Geki said, then coughed. Everyone drew a number, 1 through 12. Each called out their number as they picked it. Except for Tenin, who was still in back, her sensei Anko drew for her. Everyone waited a minute, then were told to turn and see their final opponent. When they did, a huge chart was on the wall. Most moved a little closer to see their opponent. This is the pairings for the finals. Bull versus Tsuchi Rock Nin. Rock Lee Haro Rock Nin. Niji Hyuga versus Sasuke Uchiha. Tenten versus Ino Yamanaka. Hinata Hyuga versus Sakura Haruno. Naruto Uzumaki versus Gaara. "This is gonna be fun," Bull said with a big grin, then squeezed his right fist and cracked the knuckles loudly. "Hi Bull-san. Our fires of youth will burn very brightly," Rock Lee said. "You will lose to your superior Yukika team," Niji said in a friendly but very competitive tone. "Bring it on deadpan," Sasuke said with a big competitive smile. All of Niji and Sasuke's friends shook their heads and sighed. They knew the next month would be tough as the boasting by both would be intense, but the match would be well worth the trouble. An Uchiha against a Hyuga was a fight you didn't miss unless you were dead. "Fuck me sideways," Ino said with a mix of emotions that made her true feelings impossible to read. All her friends looked at Ino shocked. Despite her attitude, she rarely actually cursed like that, so her comment worried them a little. Hinata bit her bottom lip nervously and hugged Naruto. "I'm sorry, Nata, but if she's able to compete, you'll have to fight her. I know you don't want to, but they have her listed for the finals, so they believe she'll be able to compete," Naruto said as he hugged Hinata back. He knew wasn't afraid of getting hurt. She was afraid she'd hurt Sakura, and even hurting someone just a little that she cared about, even in a friendly spar, would upset Hinata afterwards. She hated to hurt anyone, even if they deserved it. Gaara suddenly stepped in front of Naruto. "You will be Mother's greatest sacrifice and prove my existence. Do not disappoint us," Gaara said with an almost happy, but very dark voice. Everyone around them felt a chill run down their back, except Naruto, who didn't even flinch. Everyone but Hinata took a few steps away from them. Naruto gently pushed Hinata away from him, then got face to face with Gaara. "I know who and what you are, and you can't beat me. If you hurt anyone I care about between now and our match, I'll kill you," Naruto said quietly so only Gaara heard him, and hit Gaara with 6 tails worth of killer intent as his eyes turned blood red and his pupils turned into vertical slits for a moment. Kyuubi could be seen for an instant if you had looked into his eyes. Gaara flinched in fear, something he'd never felt before, and took a step back. Gaara straightened up, regained his composure, gave Naruto a nod of respect and did a sand shushin to the farthest side of the crowd from Naruto and everyone from Konoha. Everyone from another village and those that didn't know Naruto contained Kyuubi went bug-eyed in shock at what they just saw, and wondered what could Naruto have said to Gaara that could have caused that reaction in someone that was obviously a stone-cold killer. Sarutobi sighed as he blew out a plume of smoke from his pipe. He knew exactly what had happened. 8 minutes later, Arena Medic Station. Outside room 2. I know she's in there. Now open the fucking door and let me see my sister. Kankuro yelled in the med nin's face and again tried to push past him. I'm sorry, but only Hayashi-sama, Hizashi-sama and Hokage-sama can overrule Hinata-sama's orders. There she is, the med nin said and pointed down the hall. Kankuro turned, saw Hinata and snarled. Hey you little bye. Kankuro caught himself at the last moment as Naruto caught his attention. Hinata Hyuga. Tell this asshole to let me in to see my sister. I heard her screaming earlier and he won't let me help her. Hinata, Naruto at her left side Anko behind them, walked up to room 2. Please have Tenten join us right away. We can handle this. Hinata said to the med nin who left for Tenten's room. Your sister is being punished by me. She assaulted me and offended my honor as the Hyuga heiress. It was within my rights to kill her, but I did not do that. Kankuro swallowed a little nervously. He knew he couldn't beat them in a jounin, especially if the guy that beat him was an example of their strength. What did you do to her? He asked politely, his normal attitude well in check. I used a special juken technique on her I created. It won't hurt her, but she's been locked in it since my match, which was right after yours, and I honestly don't know the lasting effects. I've never left anyone in it this long. Please wait here, we'll go in and I'll release her from it and check her. Then we'll bring you in when she's ready. Hinata said calmly, then saw Tenten leave her room and head for them. Tenten-chan, please join us. Well, in a few minutes, please wait here. I promise Temari will be fine. Hinata said turned and entered the room, Naruto, Tenten then Anko following her. As soon as they were all in, Anko shut the door behind her, and they all froze in shock at Temari. She was sprawled, unconscious, spread eagle, face up on the floor, nude, drenched in sweat from head to toe. Her blonde bush was matted to her mound. Her smooth outer lips were puffed and spread. Her inner lips wet and open. Her hips were bucking hard and her clit was dark red and swollen to massive proportions. It looked like a big dick, veins were swollen and pumping blood into it. Hinata had her hands over her mouth. Dear Cammy, I didn't know it would do that to her, Hinata said. She'd tested it on Tenten with her permission and only left her in it about 5.5 minutes. She'd been very tired but otherwise wasn't affected. Temari had been in it almost an hour. It has to be that technique, Hinata. That's a hell of a side effect though, Anko said, amazed, scared and excited all at once. If that was the side effect of being at that for an hour, she'd happily volunteer for further testing. Hinata suddenly snapped out of her shock, rushed in as she activated her Byakugan and struck the points that would release it. Temari's bucking slowed and stopped over a 10-second period, then her clit softened, shrank and retracted. But it was obvious that it hadn't shrunk back to normal size and probably never would. The marble-sized tip of her clit still poked out. Anko, get the blanket from the bed and wipe her down. Tenten, get her shirt and shorts, and after you help Anko dry her off, get her dressed. Naruto-kun, go outside and tell Kankuro we'll be ready for him in a few minutes. Temari is just getting herself ready. But please don't tell him about this. You can go check on Sakura-chan for us and talk to that rock Kunoichi like you wanted to. Naruto nodded and smiled. He thought she was cute when she was like that, but then she was always cute. He turned and left the room. Hinata woke Temari with some smelling salts from her med pouch and talked while Temari got dried off and dressed. 3 minutes later, room 5. Naruto was watching 2 med nins use healing jutsu on Sakura while she was hooked up to an IV and tubes to help her breathe until her face was repaired enough for her to breathe on her own. Will Sakura-chan be okay? The older med nin, a woman, answered. She'll live. But whatever happened to her out there should have killed her. I haven't seen injuries like this since the last war. The woman looked at Naruto sternly, but didn't stop her jutsu. What the hell did Sakura-chan do out there? Naruto took a deep breath, sighed and briefly told her that Sakura opened 6 of the chakra gates, was crushed under 20 to 30 tons of earth and rock, but smashed out by opening the seventh gate and stood on broken legs. The woman, a retired Jounin and survivor of the last Great War and Kyuubi's attack on Konoha, an elite med nin who'd seen every injury a ninja could suffer, gasped in total shock and covered her mouth with both hands. Dear Kami. She knew Sakura very well from the hospital and had no idea that she could open the chakra gates, much less 7 of them. The door suddenly opened and the top med nin in Konoha walked in, a tall, silver-haired woman followed by her primary patient, the Hokage. Naruto, we need to talk about some things and I have a special mission for Team 7. Sarutobi said calmly, but the expression on his face said this wasn't a request. It was an order.